in there. So,
I would like to welcome everyone present today and those watching the broadcast and call the April 23rd, 2019 regular meeting to order with all board members present. Would you please, ROTC is coming from Hoover High School this evening. Would you please come forward, and I'll ask the audience to please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry, colors. Order, colors. Drill, colors. Right, face. Forward, march.
You may be seated. And I'd like to say thank you to Hoover for that presentation. I would like a motion to adopt today's agenda with...
Second.
We have the motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Vote, please. And that passes 5-0. Now, I would like for us to consider the superintendent's consent agenda, item I. A motion on that, please.
Are there any items pulled?
We have item I-7 and I-10 pulled, and I believe the superintendent pulled I-6.
Yes, the superintendent is asked to withdraw item I-6 from the agenda.
I-23 also.
Dr. Mike would like to remove I-23. And we have speakers on I-7, I-10, I-18, and I-35.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have that motion on the floor. All in favor, please vote whichever way. And that also passes 5-0. I'd like to go back and take a look about what today's meeting is. It's a meeting of the Board of Education. It's this business meeting that's conducted in public. We will not engage in a dialogue with members of the audience. The opportunities for members of the public to provide input to the board on non-agenda matters and items on the agenda is through the submittal of a public testimony request. The time periods for speakers on each item are set by the board as described in the board's bylaws and will be announced to the members of the public as each agenda item comes up for discussion by the board. If you wish to address the board on any of the agenda items before the board today, or on a subject that is not on today's agenda, and your name is not on the speaker list, printed on blue paper located at both entrances to the auditorium, and you have not already submitted a request for public testimony, please complete the electronic form. iPads are available at the reception desk in the lobby and are also on the table at the back of the auditorium. Requests are automatically time-stamped and must be submitted prior to the beginning of the discussion on an item. If you need assistance completing or submitting the form, please see Board Services staff at the back of the auditorium. Speakers on agenda items will be called on to speak during the discussion of the agenda item. All public testimony on non-agenda matters will be heard at the conclusion of all agendized business. A Spanish interpreter is available and is seated at the media table to your right, my left. Please speak with her directly if you need assistance. Thank you. And we have now already covered the consent agenda. Let us go to item C, which is about Jerebeck Elementary School for a student presentation. It's a makerspace, and we have Monica. Oh, Sophia. Okay, this is wrong. Okay. You're doing, okay, I'm not losing my mind. Okay, good. Thank you, Sophia.
Good evening, Superintendent Martin, Board President Weishurst Payne, and distinguished board members. I'm honored to introduce Jerebeck Elementary students, staff, parents on behalf of Monica Hazel, who couldn't be with us today. It's a pleasure to be here to hear about the exciting things they're doing with their makerspace. So without further ado, I present the principal from Jerebeck Elementary School, Dr. Nisi Watkins, principal, students, and staff.
First, I'd like to say thank you to Cindy Martin and our board for allowing us this opportunity to be able to present a little bit of some of the exciting things that are happening at Jerebeck. And I'd also like to just present some of my staff members that were able to come out and be with us tonight. And we also have some parents in the audience and some of our students. We are going to move along rather quickly because I know you have a full schedule tonight. The agenda for tonight is we're going to present our video to you. It's a short video just kind of giving the background of how our STEAM Lab / Makerspace got started. We actually opened it up this year, shortly after I started at Jerebeck, and we are going to be having our inaugural celebration on May 2nd. So if you are free on May 2nd, please come out and celebrate with us as we have our students present what they're learning in our Makerspace. That is May 2nd, 4:30 to 6:30. Tonight's agenda, we're going to have a brief video. We're going to have a first grade student do an interactive engagement with you. Mr. Reese is going to do our Ozobots. We're going to have a third grade presenter. She's going to talk about the impact that the STEAM Lab has had on her academic experience, and that's Mrs. Autumn. And then we're going to have a fourth grader, Mrs. Anna. She's going to share with you in regards to the Lego We Do. And I have here tonight Mrs. Robin Eyes, which is one of our parent volunteers. And then I have my teachers, Mrs. Pond, Mrs. Holly, Mrs. Malfioli, Mrs. Liu, and Mrs. Reg is here tonight. And we'll go ahead and start our video. Thank you.
Thank you.
At Jerebeck Elementary School, the door has opened wide on a new world of learning.
When we first came in here, I'm like, whoa, it's amazing.
On one side, low-tech materials to spur on creativity.
I just like to build things.
And on the other side, state-of-the-art learning tools.
It's in the kids' hands, so it's not just in a textbook.
The STEAM Lab, as in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, is for all students K through 5th.
They are being stretched and challenged like never before.
This is room 502, where the idea for a STEAM Lab first took root. A determined parent brought it to life.
Here I am, a mom, coming in, knocking on the door, just saying, I want to build this, and it's going to be extremely expensive, and it's going to be a ton of work.
When I heard her ideas and how it would push the learning for our students, I jumped on board.
A 2-year journey began. Staff and parents gave money and elbow grease.
A lot of weekends spent here at the school.
We had a parent install the flooring, which was about $15,000.
Another bought paint. Together, parents secured funding through donations and grants. The Parent Foundation helped furnish the space. Finally, the lab opened this school year.
I like having fun, and I like learning, and putting them together is like the best thing in the world.
At first, the new technology and how to use it was understandably daunting for some teachers.
The learning that was happening and the engagement, every teacher just jumped on board.
And I'm here to facilitate. I am most definitely a better teacher by being able to take what I'm teaching in the classroom, bring it here to the lab, and actually really bring it to life.
Other schools have STEAM labs too, but Jerabik has an innovative big picture approach.
What was different about, I think, this lab and the way we approached it was that every grade level has a scope and sequence. So what I'm learning in kindergarten is what's preparing me for first grade and so on.
Kindergartners tackle basic physical engineering. First graders get an introduction to coding, which gets more complicated by second grade. Third graders build a working computer, and so it goes.
Proud of yourself because you made the thing and it's actually working.
The goal is that by the time they get to 5th grade, they will have full exposure and understand all the elements of coding. Be proficient in Python, Java, and C++ code.
It's a bit stressful. It tests our brain in ways that we've never used it before.
It's okay for students to struggle because that pushes their learning.
We try to learn from our mistakes and make it better. We keep trying and keep trying. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's working! Eureka!
Gary Egan knows the feeling. He's a mechanical engineer and a parent volunteer in the lab.
There's a lot of fun doing this, and there's a lot of careers in these STEM topics. If they start in college, that's too late.
We get to be an engineer.
That exposure, priceless.
It feels so exciting.
And for all of the learning that's going on, it's just the beginning.
I cannot wait to see us a year from now. And now we'll have our student Reese. He's going to do a demonstration for you. Yes,
Hi, my name is Reese, and today we are going to talk about the OjoBot. An OjoBot is a little bot that gets controlled by color codes. This is an OjoBot, and today I'm going to teach you how to make the OjoBot see color. And we have a problem to solve, and we're gonna make the OjoBot go faster. So I'm gonna pass around paper. I'm gonna pass around. Oh yeah, paper. Okay. And so everyone. First, we need to calibrate it, and we need to calibrate it because it won't read the code right. And we're gonna start by getting a black marker and making a medium-sized circle like this, and then fill it in with black.
You want to hold up your paper and show them what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
You can color it in. Color in your circle, yes.
Black.
You're black. Yes, you're black.
Like this.
Okay. So hold it up again, and then you're going to tell them to turn it on, right?
And then there's a button on the side of the OjoBot, and you press it, and then put the OjoBot on the circle and hold the button for 2 seconds. And then it does that,
What did it just do?
And it turned red, so I'm gonna do it again. Okay.
So you can keep going, Reese. Your mom is going to show. What are you going to do next?
And then take your black marker and make a thick line. And there's little sensors on the bottom, and the line has to be about the size of the sensors. And then put the
That's the problem solving.
then
Go ahead. You can keep going so we can.
and then
move to
put the Ozobot on the line. And wow. Then it should move.
Did yours move? Great. Thank you, Reese.
And then we can start doing the code. And
You can just tell them about the code. You don't actually have to demonstrate that part. You can just show them what the code looks like.
And here's the code. It's blue, green, red. And we get the markers, and then we make blue.
Can we hold up the paper so they can see the
Okay. Like this.
There you go. He's showing you that's the code.
And then
sun right here. Okay, I'm going to show them which one to do. Go ahead.
Can we see Reese's code again? Yes, Reese, can you show him your code again?
Okay.
What color do you have first after the black line?
Blue, green, and then red.
Yes, can you show him? Blue, green, and then red. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and allow Reese to wrap it up. Yes. Thank you, Reese. You can leave it right there. Thank you. Autumn? They're still playing. They're still playing. He got his to go. You can go ahead, Autumn.
Good evening. My name is Autumn Nyberg, and I am a third grader in Miss Holly's class at Jerbeck Elementary School. To me, Jerbeck STEAM Lab is a fantastic, exciting place to be creative and problem solve. In the lab, we built Piper computers. In third grade, we also used STEM views. When our teacher told us we're going to build and code a computer just using a blueprint and pieces, at first I thought, I can't build a computer because it has too many parts, and that's what experts do. Even though it was challenging, we were able to complete the task, and it boosted my confidence to do harder things. My partner and I worked together to come up with different strategies and solutions to the problems that came up. By coming to the STEAM Lab, I've been able to see that I can use tools and strategies in science and technology in every subject in my classroom. The STEAM Lab has taught me to persevere through tough math problems by trying different strategies, talking with a partner, or sketching out my thinking. I think it is fun to learn and grow in the STEAM Lab. I am proud of the work I've done, and I can't wait to continue my learning journey in the STEAM Lab at Jerbeck Elementary.
Thank you, Autumn. And now Mrs. Anna, our fourth grade, you have one more quick demonstration.
Hello, Superintendent Moulton and board members. My name is Anna and I am in the 4th grade. I like science and math, but Legos are something I don't usually do because I don't feel confident, but STEM has given me the confidence. Today, I'm going to tell you about the STEM Lab by telling you about how teaching us science in one of the bills. Before I begin, take out your handouts. How it teaches us science. We made a build where it represents the force of what an earthquake brings against a structure, and we had to create our own structures to withstand the force. Also, we made a cooling fan with a lot of different motors, and we had to learn how to use them all. Also, we always need to think about what do we need to change to make our invention better. One of our builds. We made a pulling robot. And we used blocks to see how many blocks the robot could pull with different wheels. We also learned that you can only change one of the variables to make it better. If you change two variables, you don't know which variable made an impact. Also, we learned why it's good to write in our notebooks. Say another class wanted to do it exactly like us. We had to write how exactly we did it so they know exactly how to do it. Today, I told you about the STEM Lab by telling you about how teaching us science in one of our builds.
Thank you, Anna. So thank you for being patient with our students. That does conclude our presentation. Thank you. Yes. And please give us about 30 seconds. We're going to actually come up and collect the technology.
Great job, Jerebeck. Thank you.
Not bad. Thank you. Thank you. Let's give them another round of applause. For me personally, the joint board meeting that we had with the community college where we talked about all children having access to coding and whatever and building on it, this is an example that every child in our district should be exposed to this kind of instruction so that those who are interested can pursue it further, that we need to have the opportunities available for all of our students. So thank you, Jerebeck, for modeling that for us. And it's our job to figure out how we can do that. Yes, that's our agenda. Let us move now to item C2, the 2018-19 5th Annual EDCO Recycling Challenge Awards. And Superintendent Martin, would you please introduce?
Thank you. Oh, it works this week. Thank you, President Whitehurst Payne. So this is the 5th year we've partnered with EDCO for the EDCO Recycling Challenge Award. And over the course of this partnership, not only has EDCO generously provided $27,500, thank you very much, directly to our winning schools, but the challenge, even more importantly, has helped the district to continue our leadership role in environmental stewardship by recycling over 15 million pounds of material. This has made a significant impact, and we appreciate the partnership and EDCO's partnership with us in inspiring our kids to be environmentally conscious, and you're an important partner in that. So I'd now like to introduce Mr. John Vorgis, EDCO's Director of Marketing, and Mr. Darren Vey, San Diego Unified's Energy Utility Program Supervisor, to present this year's awards.
Thank you, Superintendent Martin, President Whitehurst Payne, and distinguished board members. We want to thank you for the opportunity to recognize the outstanding winners of the EDCO Challenge. The challenge is structured to include categories by grade level, as well as most improved category. So we're going to start with the most improved category and get through this. And so I want to talk a little bit about logistics, take about 15 seconds here. What's going to happen is they're going to come down, they're going to get their award, there's a check, and then they're going to move off to the stairs over here, and we're going to take one big picture at the end, okay? And then any individual pictures you want to take, we're going to take them outside. We've got these big checks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll be doing that just so for the expediency of time. So the very first thing we're going to do is most improved category. We'd like to start by recognizing their waste and recycling diversion efforts over the last year. So John, now you get to talk and just
Thank you. Thank you, Darren. And EDCO would like to thank the school district for the long time and ongoing and partnership that we've had for collecting your waste and recycling. We appreciate it, and we enjoy doing business with you. The winner, going from 9.4% waste diversion and recycling in 2017-18 to 19.94% this year, I'd like to recognize Carver Elementary School. Accepting the award and their $250 prize is Building Supervisor Roberto Villa. There you go. There's your plaque and your check. Thank you very much. Thank you.
See, you're doing a good job. See, they're going over right when we say it. Okay, good job. All right, so next we're going to do elementary school winners. And I'm going to announce the runner-up right now in the elementary category. In the elementary category, the runner-up with 35.34% diversion, receiving a $500 award, is Toller Elementary School. Accepting the award is Principal Peggy Lewis, Building Services Supervisor Aaron Ferguson, Teacher Elizabeth Allier, and Student Council President Samantha Fisher, and Student Council Vice President Veronica Ortega Cortez. Well, you guys got a group here. This is awesome. Yeah, congratulations. Good job.
All right, now we'll announce the winner, and the winner is, in this category, once again, the winner in the elementary school category with 36.49% diversion, receiving a $750 award, is Marvin Elementary School. Accepting their award is the principal, Armando Tolvar, and building service supervisor, Diana Foss.
And members of the green team. All right, got the green team here. Right, good job, you guys.
Right here. There you go.
Yeah, okay, she gets to do it.
I'll put that in your pocket. Here. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
The next category is middle school. Runner-up with 32.86% diversion, receiving a $750 award, is Wegenheim Middle School. Come on, Wegenheim. Accepting the award is Building Supervisor David Dill. Come on up, David. Congratulations. Good job. And John's going to go next.
All right. So the winner in the middle school category with 32.95% diversion, receiving $1,000 award is Taft Middle School. Accepting their award, Building Service Supervisor Elliot Scott. There you go.
Now for the high school category. Last but not certainly least, the high school's runner-up with 28.36% diversion, receiving a $1,000 award, is University City High School. Accepting the award is Principal Jeff Alero, Student Recycling Club President Allison Rose, and Plant Operations Supervisor Mark Harrington.
Great. Thank you, guys. All right, so it's once again the winner in the high school category with 39.97%, receiving $1,250. The award is Henry High School. Come on. Accepting the award is AP Environmental Service Teacher Laura Dickens, Plant Operations Supervisor Kathy Murphy, and President ROTC Community Service Club Tam Bowie.
And Principal Listy Gillingham.
I'd like to ask the board members to join them. They're finished.
So one more person we'd like to thank in this. You know, this program, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes reporting and tracking and managing of the program. So we'd like to recognize Janet Whited, who is taking the picture right now. Janet did a great job running this program all year long, and we're real proud of the good job that she did. So go ahead and give her a hand if you want. So, thank you, Janet. So what we'd like to do is do the group picture. We'd like everybody to, get up there. Board members are certainly welcome to get part of this, and then we'll exit out that door to take individual pictures. Thank you very much, and good night.
I did want to say congratulations to all the schools, but I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that all three categories were won by Subdistrict B schools. So congratulations, Marvin, Taft, and Patrick Henry.
Are there any additional comments? You're done with it? Thank you. I would like for us to move on to item D, and I thank them for all the work that they've done over the last few years. Item D, report on closed session. No report. Let's see, item D2, the administrative assignments.
Thank you, Dr. Whitehurst-Payne. The management appointments for this evening are principal at Cabrillo Elementary School, Rebecca Vogel, principal at Choyas Mead Elementary School, Christy Hunter Clark, principal at Fay Elementary School, Peggy Crane, principal at La Jolla Elementary, Stephanie Hasselbrink, vice principal at De Portola Middle School, Juliana Lipke, program manager for LGBTQIA+, Ebony Weathers. Fan club over there. Congratulations, Ebony. And Human Resource Officer Kara Marshall.
Thank you. And now let us move on to our Associated Student Body President's reports. We had an item on that. What speaker? We'll have our only student to report for us. Thank you.
Hello, I'm sorry, Carson tomorrow was supposed to be here today. He apologizes. He was unable to attend at the last minute. So my name is Delphine Asensky. I'm the co-president this year at the San Diego Met with my good friend Carson Tamar. The San Diego Met is a very different type of school that is very student-driven and highly values student voice. This has given our ASB the unique opportunity to exact a lot of change on our campus and to personalize the school for what we envisioned the student body would want. Even the fact that we have co-presidents is an example of how we were able to personalize the school. Carson and I have been good friends since 9th grade and have always wanted to lead ASB together. We both take community college classes at Mesa, as well as intern 2 days a week. So we thought running for co-presidents would be the best idea, and it really has been. Overall, this has been a very dynamic and innovative year for the San Diego Met's ASB. Our team of officers worked together over the summer to design and run our new student orientation, as well as 2 days of the week of welcome at our school. Through fundraisers such as grams, dances, and potlucks, we almost doubled our fundraising goal for the year. That means we have extra money to spend on games and food at our all-school end-of-the-year picnic. Our two biggest fundraisers were our Nightmare on Met Street dance and our A Night Under the Stars spring formal. We partnered with 2 other smaller schools, Mount Everest and ID8, which resulted in 2 of the most fun and successful dances our school has ever had, and resulted in over half our student population attending both. Currently, our ASB is preparing for our Mentor Luncheon, a school-wide event where our internship mentors are invited to the school for an award ceremony and a catered lunch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you just tell us where you're going to college next year?
Yes, I'm planning to attend UCSD to study electrical engineering.
Electrical engineering, good for you. Yep. We have a speaker.
Yes, you have one speaker, Francine Maxwell.
Francine Maxwell, District E resident. I'm handing out to you right now a letter that was sent to all staff, but this is an issue that has permeated Morris High School for years. Back in the day, the person that was over the cheer team embezzled $10,000, and the ASB advisor had to pay back the $10,000. San Diego Unified for 2018, 2019, and beyond said that you were going to have the ASB children trained, and that was going to go to the adults. The teachers are clearly showing you by this email that was sent by the principal that they are taking the money home, they're bringing it back when they choose to. Community members are writing children's checks, and the checks are going a long time without being cashed. Then when they're cashed, that community member may not have the money in their checking account due to family obligations, and they wind up incurring all these banking fees. I'm asking the board to do what's right for children and hold this school accountable for training, have a sign-in sheet at a mandatory training that teaches them the financial wherewithal, because it's jading a lot of our children. Our children are going and collecting money for fundraisers that are extremely needed, and they're beneficial because it fills the stopgap where parents cannot afford to make sure that every child participates in something. So I'm asking you, you have the proof by the email that I just sent you that she's been made aware of some things, but this is just talk. There has not been a mandatory training for every adult on the Morris High campus, and I'm asking you to make sure that that occurs.
Let us now move to item D4, and that's your report, Superintendent.
Thank you, President Whitehurst Paynes. First, I have an update on tax season, which we just wrapped up. I hope everyone filed their taxes last week. As Trustee Barrera has previously mentioned, we held our first ever session to help our working families apply for tax assistance and for free preschool. It was an amazing event. I wanted to report out on that event so you know what we accomplished. We had 34 families sign up for preschool at the event, and another 57 families were able to express their interest, and we helped put $14,000 back in the pockets of local families through the Earned Income Tax Credit and the tax preparation support that we provided to them that day. I want to express my gratitude to our partner in doing this event, the United Way, the Dreams for Change, and Feeding San Diego, all coming together with San Diego Unified on this event, and a special thank you to our own district team who worked that weekend at Choias Mead to make this whole event come together with real, concrete, tangible impact for our families and enrolling in preschool, which we know is so important. So speaking of our working families and the ways that we support, I want to share some more incredible news. I don't want to steal your thunder, but I know you'll talk about it too with everyone this evening. As many of you know, UCSD, Richard and I went there, so you're going to love it there. UCSD has a very special partnership with San Diego Unified and with Lincoln and Hoover High Schools. A lot of you know about that. UCSD Chancellor Pradeep Khosla is a tremendous partner to our district with very clear shared values about making San Diego a better place, taking UCSD off the hill and going out to the community, and he's helped so many students from those schools I just mentioned, help them attend college with very generous scholarships through his Chancellor's Associate Scholarships Program. I'm happy to say this week at Morse High School, we welcomed UC President Janet Napolitano, who spent hours with our students, interacting with them, talking with them, mentoring them, and she demystified the college application process, which is already demystified for you, but you clearly have made it through that. But really helping kids understand that, and at this event, Chancellor Khosla announced that he's going to expand his scholarship program this year to help the students from Morse. So I want to thank Chancellor Khosla, President Napolitano, and our incredible students at Morse and their principal, Dr. Cynthia Larkin. We'll have a full report that's going to be worth seeing, the pictures and the excitement of this event. It's going to be in our Friday e-blast. If you're not signed up for it, be sure you do. And I hope everyone, you can register for it and make sure you get it, but if not, you can email me and we'll make sure that you're added to the list so you can get all the details of that event. And when Chancellor Khosla made the announcement, some of the kids didn't quite understand what that meant. There were already 22 students that had accepted admission at UC San Diego, and essentially what they learned in that moment was the entire 4 years, plus room and board and books, everything would be fully paid for, and they were still trying to figure out how they were going to pay for and what scholarships and what funding and financial aid they would get, and that was all removed in a moment of an announcement by Chancellor Khosla at that event with President Napolitano, and I totally stole your thunder. I know you were going to announce it too.
No, that was grades 10 and 11 in the auditorium.
Yes.
The 12th graders weren't there.
Yes.
So the 10th and the 11th graders weren't aware of what was going on.
We're very proud of this partnership and the expansion and the work that Dr. Khosla has done to be a really powerful partner with real tangible difference. And as Dr. Whitehurst Payne said, the event announced this to 9th and 10th graders, so there wasn't anyone quite in that audience to truly understand it. And then when we got the 12th graders in, they realized what happened, and we wish we could see the looks on the parents' faces when they learned later that evening. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. It was an awesome moment, a tearful moment, too. I'd like to move on to board information reports, and I'm going to start with Dr. Evans.
I just want to make
wait just a second. At the end, is it? Do we have a speaker?
Speaker on the superintendent's information report?
No, this is on D5.
Okay. At the end of board reports, okay. I'd just like to make a statement as
Now, I couldn't understand what he said to me.
We're doing our reports first. Okay, thank you. And you'll do it right afterwards.
I'd like to make a brief statement. As you can tell, there are 5 board members who are present at this meeting. You may recall that the Board of Education passed a resolution a few weeks ago calling for the immediate resignation of Kevin Beiser, and that resolution still stands. I just don't want anybody to be confused about that. We have had no communication with Mr. Beiser since that time, and Mr. Beiser has arrived on his own at this meeting.
So this year I've been featuring videos showing students in the news demonstrating their student agency, their student voice, their civic learning, and equity with excellence. Tonight's video will feature our 2019 Chinese New Year celebration at Bernard Mandarin Magnet Elementary School under the direction of Principal Aida Hernandez. So the Chinese Immersion Program teaches Chinese culture and Mandarin Chinese, starting with students in TKK, going up through 5th grade, and then they matriculate to PB Middle to pick up, continue their Chinese language learning, and then they go on to the high school. So our students in the Mission Bay cluster will get 13 years of Chinese Mandarin language. So we're excited about that. The May 9th, the National Chinese Language Conference has selected San Diego to host their national conference here in San Diego. That'll be May 9th and 11. 1,000 plus teachers, administrators, and decision makers will be here in San Diego to learn about Chinese Mandarin, Chinese culture and language, and they'll be visiting our schools, and we're excited to invite them and to work with them. And I'd like to play the video that shows Chinese Mandarin in practice at Bernard Elementary School.
So we've been at Barnard since 2010 when we first moved back from China, and we were in China for 5 years. And so we were looking for a school that had a Mandarin program. The kids are so excited about participating and learning new dances and learning about new foods and cultures and people, and I think it really just opens their minds and helps them in the future, and really just creates global citizens that we're looking for. So it's been a wonderful experience for us.
I'm Love Spiller. I'm a parent at Barnard Elementary School. I have a son in 5th grade and a daughter in 2nd grade. And I love our school because my kids are receiving something extra from our wonderful school district. Besides an amazing education and learning about the arts and sciences, my kids come home speaking Mandarin. They come home singing songs in Mandarin, learning the culture, doing art, Chinese art, which is really, really cool and really fun. So on days like today, when we're at our Chinese New Year Community Festival, my daughter was up there performing, and all of her friends were up there performing Chinese dances and kung fu and really amazing Chinese arts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pereira, you passed. Mr. Weiser passes. I would like to... I haven't finished my report yet, Don. And then, yes, as soon as I read mine, okay.
Okay, so that board description is so vague about board reports that John Lee Evans used it to get his face on television tonight. And Andrew Green should not censor my public comments because this description is very, very vague. And so last week, Mike McQuarrie said, jeepers, if somebody's embroiled in a lawsuit, you can't do the business of education. Shouldn't do it if you're embroiled in a lawsuit. Who are you kidding? You've got Cindy Martin sitting up there being sued for sexual abuse cases, and yet she's doing the business of the school board. What I think is this school board wants to control who's going to get appointed to the school board a second time, because you did it with Marnie Foster when she was convicted of accepting illegal gifts. So there's a process, and the people who get to decide who's up in these seats are the voters, us. But you and Richard Barrera and John Lee Evans and Sharon Whitehurst Payne want to hijack the democratic process that you are supposedly teaching our children. There's a democratic process about our board members. And you guys don't get to demand that people resign, or anybody else, not the unions, not the school board members, but the voters. We get to decide. We get to decide. I think you're all very arrogant, especially John Lee Evans, hijacking this. He accuses us of lying. He accuses the speakers of lying. And then he takes the board report and he hijacks it for his own purposes. So that's my statement to you. You guys opened it up when John Lee Evans opened his mouth. And I'm going to tell you, you guys don't need to be appointing our representatives. The voters get to appoint, the voters get to select our representatives. Don't attempt to hijack it. I'm watching you and you're trying to.
There was a glitch there with this. I have a statement to read about Porter. This is about Porter Elementary School. For the past few weeks, there have been some intensive conversations across the community regarding Porter School. There is important work happening at Porter to improve the social and emotional well-being of all of our students. Our teachers are taking part in personal learning communities twice a month. And our students are benefiting from the Sanford Harmony curriculum that builds up their social and emotional skills. That work is inspirational. It's one of the reasons so many of our students have been caught doing the right thing on campus. We also have a special team of counselors assigned to that school to support our students. A part of that is a positive behavior intervention supports team, the PBIS, and some of you may have heard that from even other schools, but this team has helped Porter carry out restorative justice practices this year. There's also some work to be done around safety. They've expanded the role of our school police on campus this year. I can personally speak to having participated in the police interaction with youth program for the fifth graders. In the past, we've only had one group. This year, all fifth graders are going through that program with the school police. They're also implementing an 8-week curriculum that includes lessons on bullying, truancy, and internet safety. The parents were surveyed on traffic and safety, and as a result of that, the decision was made to close off the entrance at the T Street Loop. If you're familiar with that campus, it would be considered the South Campus. So that was closed off as a result of parents' concern. That's helped to cut traffic and helped to restrict access to campus. That's a large campus for any of you who've been on that campus. There's a North Campus, a South Campus, and then the child care program is across the street from that, but it's a very large campus. They've started locking the campus gates 15 minutes after school lets out, and they've increased the staff presence during arrival and dismissal for school safety. Safety has to be our number one concern. This must be a team effort, so I know that our school police are involved in monitoring what's going on there in terms of safety, as well as the school. They're in the middle of their elections for the new governance team and their SSC, their school site council, under Chair Janelle Wynn, has done important work on Title I spending. They're making a big investment in literacy using Title I funds. I think also I'm happy to report that the English language learners the number of them have increased. I know, Richard, you probably go to some of the schools, and I've been to several of them. But this year they have 57 students who have been reclassified as English fluent. That's more than twice the percent that they've had in the previous years. And it's an important milestone. It's a testimony to the work that's being done there. As much as some progress has been made, we know that indeed we must continue to improve the progress. We have the Elementary Institute that's working with them after school. We've brought on board Dr. John Arrington as a retired administrator who's very experienced in supporting schools. And we've brought him on board, so we know that there's work to be done, but we have established a pathway for them to move forward. And I look forward to hearing that report in the future of the progress. Thank you, and with that, that ends our...
You did have one additional speaker on D5, okay. Francine Maxwell.
Okay.
Francine Maxwell, District E. I'm concerned at the fact that the board trustee dodged the truth today. The fact that children have proclaimed that they are in the midst of getting ready to self-harm, there wasn't anything that was addressed by that. The fact that she wants to highlight for over 10 months Porter hasn't had an SGT. That's illegal. So I find it disingenuous that she wants to pour her heart out on the diocese tonight for all the care about Porter Elementary. I want to shift schools to Morris High School. As you're saying that safety is a big concern, teachers spend a lot of their own personal money in their classrooms and for students. Morris High School has been hiding the fact that teachers' cars have been being vandalized. Many teachers in my community now have to Uber or they have to Lyft to work because their spouses will not allow them to be able to afford to purchase another car. Cars are being vandalized where you can't even go ahead and just fix them. They have to scrap them. Our children are in turmoil. I want to say that this school district has done a successful thing. The video keeps being shown on all the channels, but you've got the media to stop talking about the Morris Twain children. Every time the media shows that, it's more trauma to the whole community. And this school district has yet to send anybody over to the school of Morris High School that those children, yes, some are in jail, some are at juvenile hall, but there are some other kids that were definitely experienced some of the things by those children, and they're traumatized. In this school district, because you allowed your one employee to abolish, and she used the word abolished in red, race and human relations, our children are in turmoil. When you have a child at Porter Elementary talking about self-harming, cutting is occurring. Porter parents did a presentation last Thursday to the San Diego NAACP branch. There was a conference call with the Riverside Educational Committee of North County NAACP. We had the opportunity to have the namesake of Porter Elementary. We had Yvette Porter at the meeting. She was in tears. She admitted that her father is turning over in his grave of what is occurring. You guys know, sitting on this diocese with your one employee, that the cover-up is real. But when black and brown children have been removed from Porter, we had an executive board member share that her family removed her nephew because of the bullying. The fact that the parents that came to the San Diego branch NAACP talked about self-harming, there should have been an instant call, and you have the money to call. Don't let your one employee continue to hide. Don't let my one truth dodging trustee continue to play with your purse strings and your heartstrings, acting like she's doing something. We are in crisis right now in District E, and you guys all said that every child is your child.
Just one clarification. I left out that I had met with parents in the community also, and Superintendent, in the report that you do for us, please report on the number of cases of students who want to harm themselves district-wide, not just in one school, but district-wide. That's an issue. We know that we've had suicide as an issue, and we know that we have runners at all the schools. That's a given for elementary schools. We know that we have children who are in crisis throughout the system because of what's going on in society. So if you could give us uniform information, it would be helpful. Thank you. Let us move on now to the next item on our agenda, which happens to be E1.
President Whitehurst-Payne, I move item E1.
Second.
Yeah, and I'd just like to maybe hear Delphina speak to this item real quickly, so it's, if you want to just describe it, so.
Thank you, Trustee Barrera. I don't know if you had a chance to review the agenda, but this involves your high school and
Yes.
East Village High School, and I think I see Mitch Booz out there from East Village High School. This is about aligning your calendar to the community college calendar. And it's an action the board has to take to be able to do this. If they approve the alignment of your school and East Village High and San Diego Met to your academic calendar to the San Diego Community College calendar for these two district schools for the 1920 school year, and this will begin August 7, 2019. So I think it's going to have a great impact for you when the calendars are aligned. Maybe you could talk about what that means to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an amazing idea. For years, we've had to start college classes for like 2 weeks before our high school classes start. So it's very awkward to kind of go to school before school has actually started. Our winter break does not line up with Mesa college break. So the cleaning staff leaves before we leave, or we return before they come back. So we have to clean our own classrooms. All the bathrooms are locked, so it's hard to use the bathroom on campus. And I think it's going to be a wonderful change because we're able to take intersession classes if our breaks line up. It's far easier to take those intersession classes if our finals are not happening at the same time. So I think it's going to be an amazing change for the school, and I fully support it.
Great. Thank you. Any speakers?
You have one speaker, Francine Maxwell.
I should also point out, while the speaker's coming up, that this also results in college credit potential in excess of 40 units upon graduation from high school with this kind of alignment, and it eliminates the need for off-contract days for district staff at the two schools, assists with college enrollment, attains required college textbooks and instructional materials, and prepares you for the first day of college class. Forgot to give all those details at the beginning.
Thank you.
Because these schools, East Village High and the Met, are actually on community college campuses, it makes sense that their academic calendars are different and match of the community college. As usual, one thing was missing from the report is data. Over the last 4 years, East Village has averaged 102 students, and the Met has averaged 124 students. What is the capacity of these two schools? I thought these were supposed to have about 200 students in each. So has the district anticipate how the drastic schedule change with school starting almost a month early will affect student enrollment at these schools? Also, what is the district's plan to recruit more students to these schools, again, with the start date pushed up so early? Finally, the San Diego Met has been identified by the CDE as one of San Diego Unified's most struggling schools because of high school suspension rate, low graduation rate, and low college career preparation rate. Besides adjusting the calendar, what are some of the specific supports to help the San Diego Met?
Board discussions. Any comments from board members? Okay, let's vote, please. And that passes 5-0. Thank you, and thank you. Congratulations to you. Let us now move to item E2, I believe it is, the Vision 2020, Quality Schools in Every Neighborhood, the LCAP Goal 3, Quality Leadership, Teaching, and Learning. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Whitehurst-Payne. Area Superintendent Dr. Lamont Jackson and San Diego Education Association President Keisha Borden are joining me with several of our teachers to give an update on the Vision 2020 LCAP goal, which is quality leadership, teaching, and learning. And this report tonight is going to emphasize our professional growth system for educators. Dr. Jackson, if you could have everybody introduce themselves. So I said everyone's name, but we can associate names to faces then.
Thank you, President Whitehurst Payne, Vice President John Lee Evans, and Superintendent Martin. It gives me great pleasure to partner here with my colleague Keisha Borden, the President of SDA, along with some of our educators here. We have Jamie, I'm going to get this right, Jaramillo, the principal at Sunset View, along with Laura Koffel, first grade teacher, Amy O'Leary, kindergarten teacher at Sunset View, as well as principal of Golden Hills, Steve Elizondo. So we are here to share some of the work that we have been doing around goal number 3, and specifically focused on growth and development for our educators, and leadership development and teacher growth and development. So a little bit of the background, and I don't have the clicker, so I don't know who's working with me, but awesome. Thank you, Marty. So she's coming around. You're really focused on working in partnership with SDA on a growth and development model, really focused on making sure that this model results in how educators develop their practice and how they impact students from the beginning of their career to the end of their career, and everything in between. And it's been a great journey to partner with Keisha and other members of SDA in this process. And we have, during this process over the last couple of years, we've used a process to study best practices around effective professional growth, really focused on the professional standards, the California Standards for the Teaching Profession, as well as certain specific effective practices that are research-based, utilizing multiple measures. So this focus on the multiple measures allows the practitioners to really set the stage for how they want to demonstrate student learning and their own professional growth. And one of tonight you will hear from some of our educators really on the goal writing process, which is a fabulous process that we've developed, and we think it's really making a difference. And also, we really want to focus on developing the foundation for safe, collaborative, and inclusive environments, and the partnership between the educators and the administrators. That's a critical component to this work as well.
So some of the key components are the feedback that our educators are given by their administrator. We really stress that it has to be relevant to their goals and their needs. There needs to be constructive dialogue throughout the entire process, and we've really stressed collaboration with fellow educators. We think it's very important that when educators are looking at areas of growth or areas where they need to grow, that collaboration with fellow educators is extremely important. And hoping that there's the trust there that they are able to take risks and really open up about areas where they need to grow. We also wanted to make sure that it was differentiated so that a brand new teacher educator would have a different experience than a veteran teacher, so that this program addresses the needs of an educator at all points in their career. And then finally, we wanted to really consider the complexities of teaching and learning, think about all the aspects that teachers face, all the experiences that teachers face, and we wanted it to be collectively bargained. So we started our pilot with 26 schools. We wanted schools, elementary, middle, high, K-8, alternative schools. They needed to be from all areas of the district, so we got a really broad cross-section of the district. As Lamont mentioned, we have focused this growth system on the California Standards for the Teaching Profession. So it's very clear that the educator's goals need to be based on the educator standards. We looked at ways that educators could demonstrate their growth. So we talked a lot about videotaping, creating common assessments, portfolios, lesson studies with their colleagues, and peer coaching. So that talks to the collaboration I spoke of before. And then continue to focus on that partnership between the educator and the administrator, where the administrator serves as a coach for the educator.
Thank you, Keisha. As we sat and planned this work, district support was very important, and that was mentioned from day one. And so part of our process has really made this a very important piece. So we invite all educators participating in the growth and development process to a full day training, the initial training, where all educators attend with their principals. We focus on teaching this notion of the California Standards for the Teaching Profession, and that may sound like everyone is comfortable with the standards. Unfortunately, we know in the induction programs and beginning programs, our educators are exposed. However, we don't continue that focus. And so we've had initial trainings where educators come. We also have voluntary retreats. So we had retreats this year in December, February, and March. We recognize folks have busy schedules and not all are able to attend. And so when they're not able to attend, we reach out to the sites individually to provide support from the E3 team. In addition, one of the things that came out of our prototype and continues to be a big piece of our work is the reflection and making sure that we hear from our educators how things are going, what's going well, what's not going well, and how we can make adjustments as we continue to move forward in the development of this process. So during our training and retreat days, we certainly have educators, along with their principals, side by side, reflecting on teaching practices, and they complete an initial assessment around their practice and the California Standards for the Teaching Profession, as well as the multiple measures. The educator and the administrators collaborate as they set goals focused on the needs of students, which then in turn helps the educators think about what practices they need to improve on in order to set their goals. They then select the multiple measure, as Keisha spoke about, whether it's presenting their growth through lesson study or through peer coaching or through portfolios. And then we want to make sure that there's a through line. There's alignment between what they're expecting from their students themselves, their goals, the multiple measures, as well as the overall focus on their own development.
So as this year comes to an end, we have some quotes from the participants that were in this year's pilot, and I'll read some of their quotes. Goals are focused on student learning, but really about helping me grow instructionally. Our principal is learning alongside the teachers. Teachers are collaborating, working on critical concepts and monitoring student goals and measuring each critical concept. Student data is public and students are motivated. Teachers are visiting one another. They have written goals together, regular check-ins with the principal. So I think this just shows the collaboration, the trust, working with the principal to improve teaching.
So this quote exemplifies this work around investing in yourself is the best investment you will ever make. It will not only improve your life, it will improve the lives of those around you. And now we're going to get a chance to hear from some of our educators. And I have a few questions. The first question that I have is for you, Laura. Can you describe how the full day orientation training and the goal writing process has supported you and through this growth and development process?
Sure. So I think that the best way.
Hit that button there, it'll turn green.
Oh, it was already green.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Perfect, thanks.
The best part about that day for me was the opportunity to actually put eyes on, I don't know who to look at, actually.
You can talk to them over there.
Okay. It was for me to put eyes on the actual teaching practices, because although I'm doing them in the classroom, I don't always check back. And so I really had the opportunity to do that. That was probably the best part for me.
Yeah. Amy, do you want to add anything to that?
It was a great chance to dig deeper into the teaching practices and to take a step back and look at which ones we want to pinpoint and maybe give some extra support to. And it was also a great day to collaborate with teachers outside of our grade level.
Thank you. Jamie, how has the growth and development model been different from the STOL process from your perspective?
Well, I just feel the whole group collaboration, we went into the E3 model. I had 4 teachers volunteer to participate, and it was always a group effort where the STOL was kind of a one-on-one type of situation, and it felt very formulaic, where having this opportunity was more organic for us, where we really did talk about our specific needs that were, pertinent to our site and our students. And so I really appreciated, we had 2 second grade teachers participate in it as well. So they were able to give each other cross-grade perspectives that we don't take time to do on a regular basis. So this really kind of helped us carve out that time to focus and collaborate across our campus.
Thank you. And finally, I think it's important to also, as we think about growth and development for educators, it's also important to think about growth and development for our leaders. And so, Steve, can you talk a little bit about how this process has supported the development of your leadership as a principal?
Sure. The process, everything feels so open and personalized in this new process, and so it's really created multiple opportunities to connect on a deep level around teaching and learning and dig deeper into those relationships with teachers. So, for example, one of our teachers said that she was going to address engagement of student learning through project-based learning, and so it's been great to be there with her, really supporting her through that process.
Thank you.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just kind of really want to highlight the 3 days that we had set aside to do that, because before with the STOL objective, it was never really a real priority, and so having those 3 days to be off-site with my team really carved out the time and made it a priority for us, where before we didn't really do that. And so that piece of having that release time is really crucial, because it kept the conversation ongoing. It wasn't a one and done, and then, think that we might have seen it along the way. It was like we really committed to the work.
Thank you.
So we started this process 3 years ago, I believe. So we started in 16-17 with the prototype, where we first rolled it out to our educators, and they were able to implement some components of the professional growth system. And then this year was our first pilot year. And so these folks here, implemented the different multiple measures. We have an online growth process. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from them. They've let us know what is working, what's not working, what we need to improve upon to make it really valuable for the educators who are involved in this growth model.
So as we continue, some of the work that we have done this year as a system is really focused on identifying the essential elements of the growth and development system for educators and administrators. So that's one component. We're also developing the essential elements for the system and what components need to be in place in terms of documentation. As Jamie said, supports, financial supports, release time, those are things that we have identified as essential elements based on the feedback that we've received from educators. We have created roles and responsibilities for the administrators. We know how important it is hearing from our educators for them to pull alongside their educators, and for this not to be a one-time situation where they talk about a goal and then at the end of the year, and they may do some observation at the end of the year, they sign off. And we're really focused on what do they need to know, or in addition to that, what do they need to learn? that's a critical component to find that gap so that we can help support and bridge that gap. And we're also identifying what do they need to be able to do. As leaders, when we think about the partnership, there's certain leadership practices that you have to know how to do in terms of providing a safe and collaborative, trusting environment, as Keisha mentioned.
And some of the other work that we're doing as we prepare to roll this out to the entire district is we're just making sure that we are creating and being able to provide essential information for this growth and development system. We're developing expectations for all participants. We're creating a support plan and a timeline. The group is also creating video modules so that we can provide additional support to the participants along the way. We're creating reflection rubrics so that those educators who are working on the growth and progress plan can really dive deep into their practice and reflect on their practice and on their growth. And then we're designing the full support process that can be realized and actualized for this, the second largest school district in California.
Thank you. And finally, I'm going to put the educators on the spot a little bit here, the classroom educators. If you don't mind, can you speak to this question? What has been the impact of the constructive dialogue, collaboration, and risk-taking in terms of your own growth and development process?
I think the big thing for me, when I did the stall, it was very evaluative, and I felt maybe more judged, or it just lacked the collaboration piece. And what I have now is very supportive, very collaborative with the principal, but also within the staff that's doing it. There's constant wonderings that my principal might have, and it's something I can respond to quickly, but I don't feel, it's just so much more supportive.
I have to agree that the constructive dialogue going on between us and our administrator has been really strong. The support to take risk and try on new practices and skills has been great, and allowing for success throughout the whole program.
Thank you, and I want to appreciate the fact that you took your time out to share your experiences with the board, so thank you. So as we move forward, our next steps, we've been in pilot year 1, we're going to conclude that this year, and then we're going to go into pilot year 2, where we're really tightening up our system and structures and support. We are going to have 25 to 30 new schools participating with some of the pilot schools from the first year as mentor schools. In addition, we are going to increase the support from area superintendents. One of the things that we know we're going to need to support our administrators in making sure that we're aligned with the strategic plans and the work that we're doing focused on students is going to need some support from the administrative coaches, the area superintendents. And we're going to continue to do some learning around what has been successful and what we need to continue, and some things that maybe we need to not do to continue this. And we're going to develop a growth and development process for our non-classroom educators. We know how critical that is to make sure that our staff, our educators, like our nurses, really need some support as well in their growth and development along their career continuum.
So in 1920, again, the partnership between SDEA and SDUSD will continue. We have our regular meetings to do this work. We're going to take the information that we've learned this year. We're going to continue with the symposiums where we bring everyone together for learning. We have intersessions where the planning committee comes together and plans those symposiums and works on the plans that were discussed earlier. And then we're going to finalize everything so that we're ready to implement this across the district. I'm sorry, this is your part. Just realized. And then ultimately, we hope to implement this throughout the district in 2021. But again, this is going to be collectively bargained between SDEA and SDUSD, so it'll be part of our contract and board policy, and it'll be agreed upon by everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, Keisha. So now we'll turn it over. That concludes our presentation, but any questions you might have?
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Do we have any speakers on this item?
Yes, you have two speakers, Francine Maxwell and Moira Albertson.
Okay, 3 minutes each.
This is the same presentation that we received 11 months ago at the LCAP workshop at Ballard Center, so I appreciate that. So where were the 26 pilot schools that were part of the professional growth system? Richard, you know what I'm going to ask. Where's the data from those schools? Has the professional growth system made any changes in the data at those schools? Has it improved chronic absenteeism? Has it reduced suspension? Has it raised test scores? Do you have any idea about the effectiveness of this professional growth system? What data, if any, is being collected through this process? Just the number of schools and how many teachers have attended. And just like other LCAP reports, we seem to be cherry-picking things that your one employee wants to highlight. Specifically regarding LCAP Goal 3, I'm wondering, where are we ever going to get any update on the work principals are doing to address poor achievement rates for students with disabilities, the African American students, and the Latino students, the best practices for delivering instruction for English learners, African American students, Latino students, and students with disabilities? Do we even have best practices for instruction of African American students or Latino students? If so, where are we implementing them? This presentation was given to us as a community in June at the Ballard Center. I haven't seen in this presentation anything that was different that should get anybody excited in since June, but the only thing is, I remember the last LCAP presentation at the last board meeting, it was said that we should be happy that we're getting LCAP updates because it's not required by law for you to share what the LCAP is occurring. So that's why, as long as we continue to get LCAP updates, I'll continue to ask for data, and we'll both just walk away and humbly to the rest of our days.
Next speaker.
Hi, Maura Albritton. I'm just a simple farm girl. And I am certainly for quality and growth and development, and I think organic was mentioned. But I'm just going to say, one, today's high school freshmen will, God willing, my kid's one of them, will be graduates before we actually see accountability measures actualized. Bargaining in 21-22 means accountability 22-23. Second, the phrase marketing plan reached out and attacked my retina. If an initiative is valuable, appropriate, beneficial, and necessary, isn't it going to sell itself with the results that my friend mentioned? Do we really see having to spend district dollars to market our own work to our own people? And then third, I'm kind of looking at dollars these days, and how many dollars are we spending on this every year? It is a little disconcerting to somebody like me who worries about we don't have people to take students into the general ed classroom. I worry that dollars that are designated for today's cohort of children are somehow being used to perhaps benefit some future cohort. Thank you.
Thank you. And that closes the public testimony. Let's hear from our board members. Mr. Barrera.
Yeah, I just want to start by, first of all, thanking Superintendent Martin and Lamont and Keisha and our educators. And I appreciate that the media is here to cover this, because this is a monumental step forward in public education, I think not just only in San Diego, but as a model for the entire country. And I say that because it's important to provide some context. It's almost impossible. It would have been impossible, I think, certainly a decade ago or even less than a decade ago, to imagine this conversation happening. because the idea of teacher evaluation, I think, was built on, first of all, the Stoll process, which, quite frankly, was a compliance process and something that neither educators nor administrators ever felt was valuable, but yet you went through the motions, every year. And I appreciate the Laura's, answers to. Jamie's answers to the difference between this process and the Stoll process. So for decades, we had a sort of a check-the-box compliance process that did absolutely nothing to improve teaching. Then the public education system was attacked by the corporate reform industrial complex, which came and basically laid out a narrative that if we're going to get to improvement in student outcomes, and I always respect and appreciate Ms. Maxwell's pushing us to focus on outcomes, but the theory was, in order to get to a focus on outcomes, that we had to either reward or punish educators, because what was motivating educators was not that you cared about your students or not that you cared about your own practice, but that what you would be motivated by was a threat or a bribe, and all based on once-a-year standardized test scores. So this entire model, and Maura, you talk about spending money, the millions of dollars that were spent on consultants and software systems and staff time at districts throughout this country funded by the federal government or funded by the state government or funded by local district budgets to develop a system of rewards and punishment that was somehow going to improve teaching and improve student outcomes. And what we know from that entire experience was that model had absolutely no impact on outcomes. In fact, it hurt student outcomes because it set teachers as competitors with each other, and it set teachers and administrators as adversaries. And what all of the research and all of our experience tells us is that's the absolute opposite of what kids need and what produces better student outcomes, that it's teachers and administrators pulling together in a community, working together, learning from each other, and yes, holding each other accountable. That's when we see student growth. So what happened in this district was we said time out together, the union and the district, and we said we don't believe in this compliance model that's about check the box and and nothing really happens. And we especially don't believe in this externally imposed corporate reform model that fundamentally misunderstands what motivates teachers. And we want to create a new system. But in order to create a new system, we have to spend the time, as Lamont and Keisha and everybody have presented tonight, to figure something out that hasn't been in place. And that takes time. And it is incredibly important that as we're developing our own process, that there's buy-in from teachers and administrators, because this has to be something that our educators, our people closest to our students, believe will actually improve teaching and improve student outcomes. And so what you're doing, going through that process, and not in a sort of a fuzzy way that, the term collaboration is often used, but in a highly rigorous way that includes a process that's collectively bargained, is a breakthrough in not only the way teachers are evaluated, but in the whole understanding of what makes schools great. And so I just am so thankful on SDA's part, that you've stuck with this and you've done the work, to bring educators in, and that work is ongoing. And on the district's process, to stick with this and believe in this. And yes, it takes time, but I think I can say with complete confidence that when we see this model fully developed, bargained into our contract, and implemented throughout the district, we will see much faster and much stronger growth in student outcomes than the decades of compliance or the unfortunate years of externally imposed corporate theory. So the context by which this work is being done is really important for us to understand. And we're at a point here in San Diego in 2019 where we're finally doing this the right way, and it will have tremendous impact for our students. And thank you for this work.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dr. Evans?
Excuse me, just briefly, I agree with everything Mr. Barrera said, so I won't go over all of that. I do think it is important to point out that this really is the big news of this board meeting, so that I hope that reporters and media will really take this back. And what is the big news? The big news is that we are coming up with a completely different way of evaluating teachers. And I'm using the word evaluating sort of in a broad sense, because we've talked about the Stoll evaluation, and it's sort of a pass, fail, do it, go through the motions, and then that's it. And I think we've heard from various educators that, that it's, and administrators, that it's really just a pointless process, really. It's a lot of times, I think a comparison I would make was in years past, we were making reports to the federal government and the state government about what we were doing in our schools, just, cutting and pasting and filling in so that we could comply with their requirements. And when we developed Vision 2020, we said, okay, we're going to make these are our goals, and we're going to make this fit into what the state and the federal government are requiring. And when it comes to, there's nothing more important to parents than the quality of the teaching in the school, much more than any other factor. And as Mr. Barrera pointed out, there have been many proposals. People come up with just ideas off the top of your head. Do it 37.5% on test scores, and 20% on attendance, and 10% on this and that, which have no basis in scientific research. And what we were looking for, and first of all, I don't think we on the board can take much credit for it, other than the fact that we support this process, because it really is the amazing work between the superintendent and all of her staff and SDA coming together and saying we both want to have something that's meaningful, and it's not this gotcha kind of thing, which we talked about before in terms of the adversarial kind of situation. So what it really is it's a continuous improvement process. And people think about evaluations. You sit down, you say how somebody has done, even in many companies today, and it's sort of thumbs up or thumbs down, or this much raise or something like that, as opposed to, why can't this be an ongoing process throughout the year? It's not just one time to sit down. And that requires a big change we've seen, too, is a lot more time of the administrators in the classroom, because otherwise, how can they know if good teaching is going on? And are they really up to speed on all the latest teaching practices and so forth, too? And so it was so great that you were in this process learning together, which is also what we want our students to do. We're talking about a lot of collaboration in the classroom in the terms of the students learning together, the principals and the teachers are learning together here. So this is really exciting. And I agree, too, in terms of the time process. We could have thrown something together, you could have thrown something together and just made a formula and said this is what it's going to be. But the choice was, no, let's do it, let's plan something that's meaningful, then let's test it out a little bit, and let's do a pilot, and then let's do another pilot, and then let's roll it out across the district, confident that it really is doing what we want it to do. And again, it just comes back to nothing. We don't have the data on exactly the impact it's going to have, but it's clear that nothing is going to impact the quality of teaching more than this growth and development model. So I just want to thank everybody for all the work you're doing on this. Is really exciting.
Dr. McCrary.
Yeah, it's an excellent process, and I think we'll get the outcomes we're looking for by developing a collaborative process, which has already been mentioned. The trust building as well is so critical, and it's the idea of learning together, so that our administrators and our teachers are in the process together. So it's learning how to learn, and as we go fast to go by going slow. If I got that right? To go slow in order to go fast. So the idea that we did a prototype, and then we went to the pilot, and expanding that, we'll get the benefit of a quality program that's been developed over time. And as has been mentioned, I just want to highlight it. This is just not an issue for us. It's an effort to address a national issue of teacher evaluation, and it's all about developing growth. I also think it's also about underscoring the notion that teaching is a profession. And as doctors go into their teaching and learning, and then they become practicing physicians, they don't stop learning. They continue to grow, and they learn new skills. Teaching also is very much like that. I want to highlight the emphasis that it is a craft, it's a specialized craft, a specialized teaching, and you have to do it to learn it. And when you learn it, you share it. And so the whole idea of collaborating together, learning together, developing trust is so important, and we'll acknowledge the two, for the district and SDA, for working together to make this happen.
I want to start out by commending you all for working together, but I began to realize I was in the first class when they had the Stoll Bill implementation.
Oh, my God.
When I first started teaching this, when they tried out that Stoll Bill. But all of that aside, this model is moving more towards the system that the university uses. And I just want to throw out some cautions as we go forward, because I think it's definitely an improvement over the Stoll Bill. Just keep in mind the minority opinions, not minority in terms of African Americans, Latinos, although you may want to do that also, but for those staff members who are not a part of the groupthink, they may have some ideas that are revolutionary too if implemented, but if the majority group does not want to try it out, then you may be missing out on something really important. And it kind of ties in, and I did share with the superintendent that I was going to discuss this. My Rotary Club has been implementing a career fair for the last 8 years at Porter Elementary School. And as a part of that, we as the club bring in speakers, all kinds of speakers, to the tune of 15 to 20 professionals to come in and work with the children, demonstrate various careers, and then afterwards the children actually write an essay about which career they're interested in, and they move from there, and we give them prizes after we read their essays and decide first, second, third place winners for each class. Well, this year, the teachers started with one teacher last year. Now this year, they're not going to do it. They want to modify it, and that has me troubled, because some children will have benefited from hearing what the animal control people do, or what SDG&E, and we've had the whole setup from SDG&E, from lawyers, from whomever. So we just want to be sure as we go down that path that we don't ice out or cut out some things that would be beneficial to the children ultimately, even though the teacher group as a group may not want it. If there's one individual who has some ideas that will bring forth some newness for those children, then that's what we want to do, even though all the elements, all the parameters may not be perfect, it may not be in place as you or I would think, but to think ultimately about what's in the best interest of those children. So that's one thing I really want us to keep in mind, that it has to be more supportive as a group, with the children always in mind. not the discomfort level of the teachers always, but with the children, to step back and say, this benefits me as a teacher, but what happens to the children? It's a big one with me. I mean, I was a part of a Ford Foundation where we improved the teacher professionalism, but did it translate to the students? So you always want to keep that goal in mind when you're doing evaluations. That's just me and my idiosyncrasy. Yes.
So you mentioned documentation, support, and then there's multiple measures. Can you give me some examples of what multiple measures would be in the growth and development model?
So these are ways that teachers can show their growth and development as well as the impact on students. So for example, student portfolios. So where they're showing student work as they have impacted based on the changes that they've made as professionals. They may also show student work based on the work they've done in lesson study, where they have worked on their pedagogical moves and shifts based on the student data. So there are some components. Peer coaching, learning from other educators side by side, where if I'm in the classroom, I may invite Keisha to provide me some feedback on specific instructional practices that I have identified to enhance student learning. For example, if students aren't reading at grade level and I'm working on guided reading because that's not a strength of mine, I may identify the components of guided reading and I want to implement that and get specific feedback from Keisha. So I invite her in, and then I'm able to show student data and student progress based on reading scores. Formative data. And so those are aligned, but those are a couple of the multiple measures. Videotaping. I may videotape and have a clip for Keisha to provide me feedback if she's, my coach that I've selected. Not that someone has selected her for me, but I've selected her as a mentor, as a partner. So those are a couple of ideas.
Thank you. And thank you all for the presentation. Go forward. Best to you.
Yeah.
And we want to see our students shine. Thank you. Let us now move to item F. I believe we have F1 through 8, and one of them has a speaker, or are there others?
Yes, you have.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, but we need
And
to
there
have
are 2 speakers on 3 items. Francine Maxwell on F5 and Citizen on F6 and 7.
Okay, let's have them come forward and speak before we vote on that one. Thank you.
So regarding the state constitutional amendment number 5, this school board is using employees and our tax resources for a political agenda. You're trying to change our property taxes and the protections that we have so we can stay in our homes by reducing the voting rate from 2/3 to 55%. And that doesn't belong here. That's not what you're supposed to be using our educational dollars for. You guys approved $85,000 for a political consultant up in Sacramento. And what you're doing is you're trying to change our Constitution to burden us with more taxes. You've already done it to the tune of hundreds of dollars with the bond measures that you have for improving our schools. And the work that you've done has been dismal in improving the schools and the way that you guys have allocated that money. So again, I'm telling you that SCA 5 should not be approved by the state legislature. It's a political issue, and you should not have been using this board time, using the lawyers for the school district to draft this resolution, or in any other way to put this on the agenda. That's the kind of tricky stuff that you guys do. And John Lee Evans calls us liars. He says, oh, speakers come up and they lie. We don't want to have the children hear a bunch of lies from the speakers. Are you kidding me? You guys do it all the time.
Any other speakers?
F5, as the only K-12 school district in San Diego County with the fully accredited police
agency, will this board be offering any support to Assembly Bill 392, the California Act to Save Lives, co-authored by San Diego Assemblywoman Dr. Shirley Weber? This board has offered support to numerous pieces of legislation. Will this board, especially considering that we have our very own police department, by supporting this legislation that adds a layer of accountability to use of deadly force by law enforcement officers? Given some of our past history with some of our law enforcement officers with tasing incidents that we've had, I just wanted to make sure that Assembly Bill 392 is high on the agenda to discuss in closed session. And if we forgot about some of the tasings, we can move to Hoover, we can move to Lincoln, because it was that same officer that did those tasing incidents. And so I think that right on time is Dr. Shirley Weber's bill, and I'd like to make sure that in closed session discussion that San Diego Board trustees have a consideration to back that piece of legislation.
And regarding F7 and the sheet metal workers resolution. So again, this is Richard Barrera currying political favors from unions that are going to give money to the political issues that he favors. Again, this is a use of staff time for issues that are not educational issues. What the 100th anniversary of sheet metal workers has anything to do with San Diego Unified and the educational system, I don't understand. But I do understand this is about Richard Barrera and controlling the school board and presenting whatever he wants on the dais, because he's got control. I've seen it again and again. Whatever Richard wants, just waves his hand, and Martin's going to do it. And that's what this is about. Nothing wrong with sheet metal workers. Fine people, do fine jobs. But this is a political issue, and you shouldn't be spending educational time for this kind of thing.
Is that it? Please vote. That passes 5-0. Let us move now to item G1, the Community Advisory Committee for Special Education, the semi-annual report to the board. You have up to 10 minutes to present this report.
Good evening, Dr. Whitehurst Payne, Vice President Evans, Superintendent Martin, and trustees. Thank you for the opportunity to update you on the work of the CAC during the last 4 months. Let's see if I can figure this out. The CAC is pleased that this district and the trustees have embraced the concept that all students are general education students. And in thinking about tonight's presentation and what could be next, here's a corollary idea for your consideration, and that is all San Diego administrators, teachers, and classified employees deliver high-quality, differentiated, evidence-based instruction to the diverse learners of today's classrooms. I think of how different our district would look if our special education programs division would be able to focus intensively on the education of young people with disabilities whose ages fall outside of the K-12 education and whose nature or severity of disability requires exceptionally specialized strategies. General education is, I'm going to beat my little drum here, where content lives. It is special education for most students should be reinforcing, should be supplementing. It should not be where the real learning is happening. For the majority of students with disabilities, experiences within the general education environment is going to determine the trajectory of their outcome. So kindly hear the rest of my comments as a call to breathe. Once again, new purpose, to double down on the roadmap that Dr. Thomas Ayer already provided to us. Unified systems, authentic access to general education is where the work must continue, both in terms of who does the primary instruction and in terms of what that primary instruction entails. Let's see. So under operational challenges, two top concerns on this slide. Since the last CAC report, there has not been real engagement with the committee on the issue of universal design for learning, which was a big thing in fall. And it is our opinion that the upcoming year, 2019-2020, has to be the year that our district demystifies universal design for learning at the site level and really takes it to parents and staff and explains how everyone has a role to play, how it is a critical piece of educating all of our students, not just the students that I'm here to represent. And it's also a way of keeping our district more financially viable. And our committee is, of course, poised to participate and support this work. My second concern is that we requested information about special education expenditures. It's a bit worrisome that our managers don't appear to have at hand the information that one might imagine would be necessary to appropriately steward public resources, and opaque is the best descriptor that I can use while I'm waiting for that information. Under compliance, I'm going to spend a few minutes on the very unacceptable state of early childhood special education per parent report. There's been lots of it. The committee, I know that there's probably a 1-year plan and a 2-year plan and a 3-year plan, but the CAC really cares about today's students who are not being appropriately assessed for a seamless transition into what's called Part B services. We're very concerned about students who are strapped into seats on buses with little interaction, very little opportunity to assess their comfort, riding across town because programs or spaces in those programs do not exist near their residences. We are concerned about today's youngsters who are offered separate settings in violation of the law because there weren't spots in a less restrictive setting. We care about staff who are charged to help families but not provided the physical resources to do so. And we care about families who are anxious and angry and afraid that their youngsters, we're talking 3-year-olds here, are not receiving appropriate services and supports at a critical phase in their development. We should all care, and I know you do, about what this disruption eventually leads us to, which is separate settings, modified curriculum, suboptimal student results. Of equal concern on this slide is the problem of failing to implement IEPs. We have to have more transparency when families are not able, we need the transparency to families when the district is unable to provide a related service like speech therapy or the paraprofessional support to enter the general education classroom. And of course, we need to prioritize that. So as a CAC, we certainly recognize that there are shortages and there are tough billets to fill, as you might say. But what we want to see is candid communication when the sites do fall short and specific proposals about specific students being made whole. I want to just on this slide talk about 3 happy things. Everybody gets more enthused. First, I want to note that Teresa Leskowski has made a huge effort to come up to speed in taking on the supervision of the Special Education Ombudsperson program, and she's been attending meetings, and I just want to recognize that. That's been really nice to see. I also want to give kudos to Jim Solo. He probably doesn't realize what a big difference he has made in the lives of families when he combined the calendar committee with credit recovery with extended school year, and in the first time in my memory, we have dates years out for summer, and for families to be able to kind of plan their events. That's it's very nice, and it was probably 0 cost, so thank you to Jim. I also want to note Cheryl Hiblin has been really essential in bridging the work that was begun with Deanne Ragsdale around meaningful course of study. Cheryl's come out twice this year, so more than a quarter of our meetings have featured her, helping to really explain to families the nuts and bolts of what it means to be on a diploma path. She has worked behind the scenes to help diffuse some issues involving specific students, and really she's invested in both me as a parent who doesn't know everything, obviously, and also in helping Sarah Ott, our new executive director, not so new now, to be much more conversant in the complexities of secondary school. So it's a rare person who combines her passion and her competency, her truly original thought, her work ethic, and her love language of data. So I just wanted to give her some moments. This slide is to keep the issue of meaningful course of study at the top of your collective mind. There is no question that this is the single biggest issue for every student, whether they have a disability or not. What am I going to do when I exit school? The CAC is standing ready to work alongside district staff to ensure students, again, with and without disabilities, gain the skills that will ready them for competitive, integrated employment and post-secondary education. The awesome committee, and I do want to give them some kudos because we have some really fabulous community members and parents and staff members who help to discuss and certainly help guide this presentation, but they are certainly hopeful that those of you here will be hopefully attending our Above and Beyond Awards at Roosevelt on May 16th. We have a number of great stories to share again this year, and I can promise you fun and applause and cake. So I thank you for your time, and I await any questions or comments.
Thank you.
Well under 10 minutes.
Yes.
Wow, you've got this dialed in.
No speakers? Okay, we move right into board members. Superintendent, you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Moira, for reaching out to me and to our chief of staff a few weeks ago so that we could sit down and go over all of this with you. I'm really clear on what your concerns were: budget, professional development, partnerships, meetings, and I know you're working closely with Sarah, and your feedback to us was really important for us to be able to support solving some of the big systemic issues. I also appreciate your approach, is that you're not doing one little one-off something. It's more systemic things that we need to improve on and get better at in each one of these areas. So you definitely are down to less than 10 minutes. You've dialed in how to give your feedback to us and assume your role in this as the chair very well, and we want to partner with you to answer some of these questions. We don't have a response tonight. Sarah Ott's not going to come up tonight and go back and forth with us, but we're working closely with you on each one of these items.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah, I just have a question here on the district operations. You mentioned about transportation. I know this is a big deal in terms for the students with special needs because of the fact that certain programs are located at certain locations. And so could you just expand on it a little bit more about what you've seen happening in that arena?
Wow, this is off the cuff, but I think there's a couple of things. First of all, it's an incredibly complex problem. Secondly, putting on my transportation hat, it's your efficiencies in your transportation department. The fewer students are transported, it's going to be a little more inefficient. We have heard a number of parents express concerns because they're youngsters, and again, the specific case I'm thinking of was a very young child, like a 3-year-old, that was on the bus for greater than an hour and I believe 15 minutes each way. And so it's an ongoing need, and one that I'm certain that Ms. Ott would say, we totally know that's a problem and we're working on it. But the other thing that has come up with regard to transportation is just the number of, I believe they have vacancies, or for whatever reason, I was told they were 13 drivers short, so there was a number of routes that were not running in a timely way. So I don't know where we stand on that.
And do you have any idea of how many families are using alternative transportation? I don't know whether it would be their own transportation, or I believe there's some means for paying for that, or some other paid transportation besides going on the school bus?
I couldn't give you any statistics. I'm not privy to that. Pardon? Sorry.
Somebody.
I don't know the statistics.
Okay. Yeah.
Ms. Barrera?
Yeah, are we going to have a time where Sarah and the staff are going to come back and give us a response?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, great.
That's good. I too want to thank you for the report because very interested in this topic. And you noted that we have embraced the notion that all teachers teach children with special needs, and the universal design, lesson design is essential part of that, and I'm hoping that when the plan comes back, you'll be excited also about some of the things that on the horizon, Superintendent?
Yes.
For special education, and we can make you happier.
We've been sharing
for
some
children.
of those with you, but more to come.
Yes, you've been sharing some, but I'm excited. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Moira, and we'll see you at the honoring our own.
Let us move now to item H1.
I'll move H1.
Second.
We have the motion on the floor. Are there any, is there anyone who, no? Okay. Any discussion from board members? Otherwise, please vote. And that passes 5-0. Let's move to item H2.
Second.
We have that from Mr. Barrera and Dr. Evans. No staff presentation. Any, no speakers? Okay, let's, board members, anything? Otherwise, let's vote. And that passes also 5-0. We'll move to H3. Superintendent, can you please present this item? Update on the enrollment of Thrive Charter School students to the San Diego Unified School District.
Thank you, President Whitehurst Payne. I'm having Marceline Marquez join us up here to give the update and the clicker that she will need to provide an update on the enrollment of the students from Thrive Charter School and the progress that we've made in doing that enrollment and outreach. Thank you, Marceline.
I don't see it. There it is. Good evening, Board President Dr. Whitehurst Payne, Superintendent Martin, and board members. I'm very pleased to be able to report to you the efforts San Diego Unified has made to support the families and students of Thrive. Here we have a timeline of events around Thrive since the denial of renewal of charter by both the district and the State Board of Education. Immediately following the State Board's decision, the district mobilized a robust support plan for families and students to ensure enrollment in school for 2019-20, which included prompt and ongoing outreach to the Thrive leadership for collaboration in assisting Thrive families with enrollment in San Diego Unified. District support for Thrive families has been a multi-departmental collaboration and effort. The Public Information Office, Neighborhood Schools and Enrollment Options, Extended Learning, Translations, Parent Engagement, Food Services, Transportation, Charter Office, Instructional Facilities Planning Department, Finance, and Human Resources have all worked together to support the district's outreach efforts. Beginning March 15, 2019, the plan was implemented to provide Thrive families guaranteed enrollment in schools with capacity. The district began a wide-range communications effort to connect with families impacted by the Thrive closure. Since March 15th, the district has posted information on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, which have been seen by more than 13,400 people in the San Diego area. 10 News and Fox 5 conducted interviews in front of our Enrollment Options Office on March 16th. Staff shared that on that very first day, the district had already enrolled 60 students from Thrive into district schools. Staff also shared news about the district's plan for supporting Thrive students, including priority enrollment in the preferred schools with capacity, one-on-one support for parents at the Family Welcome and Enrollment Center, including bilingual support, and the Thrive hotline just for them. You may have noticed that beginning on March 15th, our district homepage welcomed Thrive families and provided information on a special Thrive hotline. NSCO immediately began to receive calls from families requesting information on options for enrollment. Some families visited our office in person, and others called and emailed us. NSCO has been there 100% to support the Thrive families. Our district homepage continues to display information for Thrive families, and via the enrollment tab on our homepage, there is a link to a special Thrive enrollment page, complete with information on the Thrive hotline and enrollment in the neighborhood school, as well as enrollment via choice. Staff has worked to provide both a seamless and compassionate process for our Thrive families in transition. Informational meetings were promptly calendared and banners posted at our co-location sites. NSCO staff and special ed representatives joined the site administrators, leafleting families with meeting notices and conducting informational meetings. Food services provided refreshments, family engagement provided childcare and translations, and staff made presentations and responded to parent questions. In an effort to meet the needs of all Thrive families, including those with students with IEPs and 504 plans, special education leadership met with Thrive leadership to discuss supports for students with special needs. The meeting was very productive and clearly articulated a process for parents to follow if they were interested in enrolling their child with San Diego Unified. The special ed department participated in all community meetings to address parent questions and concerns relative to enrollment for pupils with IEPs and 504 plans. And Special Education Director Ed Baisley is the designated direct contact for Thrive staff and parents should any questions regarding transitioning to San Diego Unified arise. So we've provided 3 tiers of support for our students with special needs: administrative overview and collaboration, parent question and answer meetings, and direct administrative access. Additionally, our Executive Director of Special Education, Sarah Ott, reached out to Dr. Nicola Sisi after the original meeting, suggesting additional collaborative and coordinated efforts if needed. Ultimately, district and NSCO leadership has assured the Thrive community that all students, including those with special needs, can be accommodated via choice at schools with space, and if any Thrive students require separate settings, then special ed and NSCO will work directly with families to provide the best options for enrollment. I'd like to share some of the specific outreach efforts made by the district to our Thrive families. We conducted 2 outreach meetings at Carver, one of our elementary co-location sites. District representatives joined the site leadership to provide information about the site and also district support services. Thrive leadership invited San Diego Unified to participate in an enrollment fair at their 54th Street location, the former Jackson site, and staff reported that many families inquired about enrollment in our schools, and staff followed up on over 70 contacts on an interest list. Thrive leadership also invited our staff to participate in an enrollment fair at the Bayside campus on Comstock. This event was also very successful and resulted in many additional families seeking enrollment in San Diego Unified. Again, a multi-departmental effort resulted in the success of this outreach. Twain is a Thrive co-location for middle school pupils. The district plans a high school outreach meeting at the Twain site for May 1st, and all high schools have been invited to represent, both comprehensive and alternative schools such as San Diego Met and East Village. As with all of our outreach efforts, this event will include childcare, translation services, refreshments, enrollment specialists from NSCO, and representatives from special education. We also anticipate some media coverage of this event. We've already been contacted. Kearney cluster outreach efforts were conducted earlier this month at both Montgomery Middle and Kearney High. Again, for these events, many departments pitched in to support. Staff presentations and student demonstrations, as well as parent and volunteer testimony, were part of the events. Similar outreach efforts were made in the Crawford cluster at all levels, elementary, middle, and high school. The current status of our outreach efforts includes, and I updated it just before I came over, 177 Thrive students being enrolled in district schools through NSCO, and we are informed that some pre-enrollment has been facilitated at school sites, about 20 that we are aware of. So very close to 200 pupils have already taken advantage of the district offer to support enrollment without barriers. NSCO in particular has had a very high level of contact with the Thrive families via walk-in visits to our office, phone calls, emails, leafleting, and also parent letters made available to the Thrive school sites for distribution. We are continuing to work with Thrive families, handling each contact with compassionate support as we assist families with enrollment options in our district. To this point, every request to enroll in a district-operated school has been honored. Not one request has been denied. And so I thank you for listening to my update, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
We have speakers on this one.
Yes, you have 10 speakers.
Then we need to give everybody 1 minute each on that. Would you call the names, please?
Yes, Elizabeth Bowe, Kelly Middleton, Wilhelmina Bradley, Tony Bradley, Christopher Poblete, Angel Vasquez, Susan Stark, Margarita Cornell, Katie Baker, and James Hardy.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President. Good evening. We are here from the Save Thrive Community Action Group. We met with Mr. Burrell last week, and he indicated that he would do whatever he could to get us a line item on the agenda. When reviewing the agenda, we were disappointed not to see our line item, but we noticed your item for an update on enrollment of Thrive Charter School students to the San Diego Unified School District, and wanted to take this opportunity to provide you with an update from the perspective of the families of Thrive students. On your timeline of key events, we'd like to correct that in November 2018, San Diego Unified did not reject the charter renewal, as Thrive's charter does not currently reside with San Diego Unified. You voted to not bring Thrive's charter under San Diego Unified. At that time, Dr. Whitehurst Payne indicated she'd like to see Thrive get renewed at the state level and come back to San Diego Unified in less than 5 years. Your timeline also indicated that the SBE denied Thrive charter renewal. However, due to 40% of the board vacant, absent, or abstaining, the SBE actually issued a no decision.
Thank you. Could you submit that in writing for us to see?
Hello.
Thank you.
My name is Katie Baker. Thank you for having us here. On your enrollment without barriers slide, you indicated that Thrive students have priority choice enrollment at any school with capacity. There are a few key points to make here. First, because choice placement has already begun, it is highly unlikely our placements will be prioritized. And that phase with capacity is also key. Parents are already being told that the high-performing schools are at capacity and no longer an option. As more schools reach capacity, there has been no indication on how Thrive students will be placed. Is it first come, first served, or will there be a lottery? Are the choice and Thrive parameters going to be used? Outward appearances are that you don't have a plan in place for this, or at a minimum are not communicating this plan with the people it impacts. Your slide on special education indicates that you had a representative attend your enrollment fairs. The parents who have attended these fairs have found this to be categorically untrue.
Is it possible for us to get these in writing so that we can then address?
Yes, we will give you these.
Thank you.
We've seen no such support for our families.
As reported in the Union Tribune, Thrive's diverse student population is 20% special needs, nearly twice the state average. These families have all chosen to be at Thrive because Thrive is meeting our needs and surpassing our expectations. San Diego Unified has 20 schools filed grievances for insufficient special needs resources. We've seen no plan on how you are going to provide resources for the special needs kids you've already served. Well, we found out a little bit tonight, but there's still clear problems. Much less how you will be able to provide support for our Thrive children. I personally have had no contact with anybody or been at any of the fairs where somebody from special ed department has been there. Your slides say you meet with Thrive leadership on April 15 regarding Thrive special education needs, but we are not aware of the results or how is that impacting our families. We've had no contact. We assure you, if you expect to learn from Thrive on how they're excelling in this area, you'll need a lot more meetings.
Thank you. And again, the same comment. Submit those.
Regarding campus outreach, Thrive families have no idea when or where the information is being distributed. We've had a lot of very active and involved parents, and we're simply not receiving this information. The few open houses we've heard about have all been at low-performing schools in the reds and oranges on the state dashboard. When we inquired about this at the hotline, one parent was told that she was, quote, strongly encouraged not to judge the schools by their test scores, end quote. Another time a parent was told you assumed we all know about the well-performing schools already and that you were holding fairs to target the schools in our geographic areas. You have this backwards. We know about our neighborhood schools. We've made the choice for our children's education to attend Thrive because our neighborhood schools are not meeting our needs and not a fit for us. We need you to identify which San Diego Unified schools will provide the same level of quality education and innovation that Thrive has been providing for us. On your slide, it says, your school choice. Here's the hotline number. My school choice is Thrive. The results so far slide is interesting.
Thank you. Please submit it to us. Thank you.
We are quickly approaching May. There are 2 months left in the school. You have only enrolled 171 students. That's only around 17%. What about the other 800 kids? This slide also seems to suggest you are in some way supporting Thrive families with charter schools. Multiple parents have been told by the hotline that you specifically cannot help us with charter schools. Many of the 171 have been enrolled as backup while they look for charter school options on their own. Finally, you left off on the slides a few critical items. The first being before and after school care. When we asked the hotline if you would be helping us get priority entrance into before and after school care, we were told this is not something you could do. Thrive has multiple options for parents. You should be aware that this plays a critical role for our families, and the lack of support further limits our options. More importantly, your slide does not reflect the impacts this is having on our Thrive students, families, teachers, and staff.
Thank you. Please submit it for a response.
Good evening. You hear the angst from these families. It's real. It's palpable. These families are afraid. They're scared. They're traumatized. They've been through the school district system prior. They don't want that choice. The 171, the 180 families that have enrolled, I'm certain, are viewing this as a backup. Thrive works. Thrive is their first choice. And if you leaders here are listening, you will help these families make that choice for them. That works for them. It's important. We will fight for our kids. We will do whatever it takes to fight for our children. I can only hope that you all would do the same. Your elected officials, I would hope that you would find that responsibility in your hearts and do what needs to be done. These families deserve nothing less. This is a small sample of a lot of people's fears, angst, and anxiety going into this end of the school year.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Buenas tardes.
Good evening.
Mi nombre es Margarita Coronel.
My name is Margarita Coronel.
Soy mamá de un estudiante de la escuela Thrive.
I'm a mother of a student at the Thrive School.
Yo estoy aquí apoyando la escuela porque creo en ella.
I'm here to support the school because I have faith in it.
He visto a los maestros capacitados y con mucho amor haciendo su trabajo.
I've seen very capable teachers and with a lot of love doing their work
Con mucha dedicación
with a
para
lot
con
of
nuestros hijos.
dedication for our children.
Yo amo a la escuela Thrive
I love the Thrive School,
y mi hijo también mucho más.
and so does my child even more.
Ya está sufriendo por lo que está pasando.
And he's suffering for what's going on right now.
He visto en mi hijo mucho avance tanto en su desarrollo educacional
I've seen my child advance a lot in his educational development.
ha aprendido a socializarse con personas adultas que era su timidez.
He has learned to socialize with adults, which was his issue, his shyness.
Convive bastante con los niños, amamos a la escuela y estamos aquí para luchar por ella.
We love the school a lot. He likes to hang out with the other kids, and we are here to support the school because we love it.
Gracias por su atención.
Thank you for your
Gracias.
attention.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Angel Vasquez, and I'm working with Thrive as part of an organization called Kids Should Thrive. And I just have a few questions about some inconsistencies that I've seen online. Number one, the lack of due diligence. Why was such a small sample group tested and evaluated against its competitors 3rd through 8th grade? Why were students not retested again to ensure unbiased results when science is proven by repeatability and not consensus? Opposition to stay open. Why would the fact that there is opposition to the school staying open have any merit to those who wish to still send their children to that school if it in no way affects their opposition? Is it due to budget, manpower, or other resources that we don't know about? Why would a school that was only open for 5 years, grew to 3 campuses, and had not yet been reviewed by one complete development cycle of K through 12th grade be even considered for closure? Freedom of education. Why would the school even shut down regardless of successful onboarding when there are parents who are clearly opposed to the shifting from Thrive to other schools, despite the fact that it is well within their rights to freedom of education to choose a school that best falls within their beliefs and standards? Thank you.
Thank you. Please submit to our board officer. Thank you.
The teachers at Thrive, the teachers are kind, amazing, and thoughtful and caring. I like being at Thrive because I feel like I'm not alone. The teachers have taught me if you need help or there's a problem, I can go to them and they will listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Okay, thank you. Now for board discussion. Mr. Pereira.
Yeah, just one question, Marceline. I appreciate the report and the update, and I understand that in your report that every family that has requested a district school to date has been placed in that district school?
That's correct.
Okay. And then I did hear from families talking about challenges with after-school programs perhaps not being opened up. Do you have any update? So we talk about it in the district school if it has capacity, you know, but what about after-school programs?
Right, correct. And we did contact the Extended Learning Office right away and connected with Christiana Trout-McPhee, and she told us that we could refer families to her directly, and she would work with each family, assisting them with their application. That's not a function that we provide in SCO, so we've given that information to parents when they've inquired about it.
Other discussion from board members?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's been great work in terms of these 177 students. Obviously, there are about 1,000 students, so it will be interesting to find out what happens with the other students. I know you had a little bit of information on a couple of charter schools that they had gone to, but obviously the parents can contact whatever charter school they want to go to. And despite all the good efforts to reach everybody, there's still, you know, certainly some feelings among them that they don't have full information. So, for example, with the issue about special education, would it be possible to arrange another meeting of somewhere that the Thrive parents, or if there's some way of identifying the Thrive parents who have students with IEPs, could go to get this information about what the different special education services are across the district?
Yes, I'm certain that working with Sarah Ott, we can arrange something. But we have had special education reps at all of our meetings and all of our events.
Okay. And I understand what some others said too, that when they chose Thrive, that they had already made a decision about not going to their neighborhood school, which makes the choice option even that much more important. I mean, I still think it's important for them to find out for sure whether or not they've actually visited the neighborhood school, because it may have been based on some perception or reputation. But when you said that, when you were talking to Mr. Barrera about the students that were placed, they were all placed at the school they requested?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. I think my concern, did you want to say something, Dr.?
Yeah.
Closing schools is one of the most difficult action that any school board anywhere can take, anywhere in the nation. It's not something that is done lightly, and so it's the same with charters as with any other public school. School boards do not move in that direction to close the school without doing diligence and careful work. In this particular charter, the charter was authorized by the state, and the state had the opportunity to renew the charter, which they didn't, and this district took a look at the charter and looked at the outcomes and compared those outcomes with comparable schools, either by geography or by demographics, and found that the charter was not succeeding and was not comparable. And then based on the criteria that we have with the renewal decision that we needed to make, it was determined that the charter did not meet the standards. And then the appeal process then was that the charter then went to the state to have the state, which was the original authorizer, to authorize, and they concurred with the findings of our staff and this board. So we're where we are, and it's a difficult situation. What we want to do is make it as easy as possible, and as best we know how, in order to help the families that Thrive understand their options, understand what schools are available, and then helping to select those schools. And so that's the effort that we're making, and I appreciate the fact that Richard had met, and we determined to bring this discussion to the board for additional discussion, and we want to do everything that we possibly can within those confines of helping you find a school that'll best meet the needs of you and your children.
My concerns center around not just getting the students into the schools. You guys are doing a great job of reaching out, trying to facilitate that. But let's take it beyond getting them there. We're talking special education. I know this summer we have plans to roll out some workshops to help faculty, etc. We've got to get it right for kids. We have to, and I mean, I'm just looking at you, maybe I should look in the sky, but we've got to get it right for kids. And special education students are unique in that they do have the IEP plans and so forth, but it's all about not just having a universal lesson design, but it's about attending to every child's needs. That's why we have the IEP, to address what are those needs and how can we meet those needs. And if there are some issues we need to work through, we keep going at the IEP until we get it right, until we meet the needs of the children. What I hear are parents saying, I want somebody to address the needs and help my children. And so, you know, this is a good report that we've gone out, we've reached out to these parents, and a couple hundred of them have signed up. But even for those couple hundred, when they go to the schools? Have you shared beyond just getting them there? Because then we get the same old thing. We have the same thing over and over again and not really addressing each individual child. And if we use the tools, the universal lesson design or whatever it is, then we can look at each child's needs as we plan our wonderful lessons that they talked about earlier and address those needs. And when it's beyond our capacity, we then go back and look at the IEPs, the system, to say, what can we do without throwing the children away? I don't know. It's just, that's what we have to get right, not just getting them in. But we have to start working on getting it right for the kids, because it's about that for all of us.
I would agree with you 100%, and the multi-departments that have been working together on this are already engaging in discussions about transition plans for these students so that schools are prepared to welcome them and support them in whatever way they need.
And I know Sarah is looking at each of the individual IEP. If you want to say something, you can, but I'll say it for you. She's looking at each IEP of each student that's coming to make sure we're putting them in the right setting with the right supports and the things that have been written into the IEPs and the transitional IEPs as well. So it's a student-by-student re-entry, not just enrollment. It's what do we do to help them be successful when they do enroll, and Sarah's taking that very seriously, individual, student by student.
In terms of helping them with the transition, I'm also wondering, this is down the road, but it would be nice to have a report a few months into the school year to track all of these Thrive students, just to see how they are doing, and you know, some sort of a survey or some information from the school, because this is a very unique situation, and it would be good data for us to have in terms of, you know, we're making every effort to provide them with school choices and helping with the transition, but I think it would also be helpful to know what are the preliminary results in terms of them being at the new school after they've been there for a few months.
And I think that's a great idea and so forth, but to me, it's kind of like the prototype too, because we keep saying every child, but we have to mean that and not just say it. We really have to mean that for every child. So I won't belabor the point. Thank you for your report and so forth.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Marceline.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can the parents speak about special needs children directly to this issue that you're talking about? It's important. You talk about every child. This is important.
I'd like to hear it.
My name is Katie Baker, and I have gone through the San Diego Unified School District for my child who's a special needs child, and we started from the beginning with them getting our IEP, and everywhere that we went, we encountered a roadblock. And when we went to Thrive, there were no roadblocks. It's exactly what you're saying. He was treated as an individual child, and we don't even, the IEP isn't the main driving force of how they educate him. They just look at him and educate him. They don't have to always refer back to that IEP. The IEP, it's just a piece of paper, but they can look at him today and say, we need to put something into effect for this child tomorrow. He's having a hard time with this. We can work on something tomorrow. Whereas when I went through San Diego Unified School District, I was told if I had a problem, I need to contact this person, go through my chain of command, and then it would be 30 to 60 days before we would work on this problem. And so those problems escalate. But when I go to Thrive, this place that I have found that works, that other parents have found that works, we don't encounter that. So if the school does close, I recommend having Thrive come to your school and tell you how we're doing this, because they've got it right and they know exactly how to do it. My child comes home, he is a confident learner, and he is autistic and he has social anxiety, but you would never know it at Thrive. You would know it in this room, but with Thrive, he trusts the people he is spending days with.
Thank
and
you.
I can drop him off there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And thank you for this item. Let us now move to I. Superintendent's
I'll move on.
Yeah, oh, God, I did. I had it there and forgot it. H4, right.
Second.
Sorry. Yes, second moving. Any discussion on it? Any board? Richard and John. And we don't have any speakers? Okay. Please vote on it unless you have some discussion. We're on H4. H4, please vote. And that's 5-0. I got distracted when I'm sorry. We're on to I now. And let's see, we voted on everything except 710. Can you bring up those speakers?
Yes. Items I6 was withdrawn. Item I23, Dr. McQuarrie would like to speak to that item, and then we'll have speakers.
I think it was I-24.
23.
23.
Yeah, there's not an actual conflict of interest, but there could be a perception of a conflict of interest. So at the facility, which is the lease item on this particular action, the YMCA has gifted an organization which I am a member of office space there in that facility. So in an effort to not have an appearance of conflict, I will abstain.
I will move I-23 to allow him to abstain.
Thank you, and second on it from Barrera. So let's vote on that particular item since we don't have any holds on it otherwise.
Okay.
Okay, that passes.
I said yes.
No, it doesn't. Let's vote again. Let me see that vote again, please.
Don't touch anything.
Okay, that passes 4-0 with a recusal from Dr. McCrary. Okay, and now, did somebody else have a...
Now we have speakers on items I7, Francine Maxwell, item I10, Moira Albritton, and I-18 and I-35 Citizen.
Okay.
I-7 is a ratification agreement with TechSmart. I was late today, so I missed the Jerebec, so I'm not quite sure if I-7 is for Jerebec because the item is over $500,000, $571K, and it's a ratification, so that tells me that the work is already started. The packet doesn't show me who the teachers are, what the schools are, who's teaching coding to students, and where would this be implemented. Again, there's no accountability for how much money is already being spent. We know how much money will be going forward. So I'm just asking once again, where's the transparency for I-7 so that the community knows that we're ratifying TechSmart for over $500,000?
I'll move I-7.
Okay, a second on that?
Second.
Let's vote on that.
No, just a comment or a question here. So what I understand for this agreement is to train teachers in computer science education. Is that correct? And I also want to make sure that the funding for this is coming from a grant outside the district. It's not coming from general education.
Dr. Ottinger, did you say Noemi is available for this item? Noemi, there you are. Thank you. Dr. Villegas can give you the details on this item.
What was your question? I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, just glancing at it very quickly, it's training for teachers across the district in computer science teaching. Okay, and how many teachers across the district? I mean,
so we have through the Kids Code program is an after-school education program that we got, and through that grant we are going to be able to provide educational computer science coaching to teachers so that they can then train students on computer science.
And is this at schools all across the district or certain?
So this is going to be, the funding was determined based on the highest free and reduced price meal funding. So we got 16 elementary schools and 4 middle schools and K-8s participating in this program.
So if I understand, the priority was for high poverty schools?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. And I think as it was
a grant.
clarified, this is a grant, this is not coming from district funds. It's an
Correct.
outside source that's paying, and it's prioritizing for the higher needs schools.
Absolutely. So we apply for a lot of grants, and this is one of the grants that we applied for and we got. Our prime time extended learning programs, we're searching always for grants to offset some of the amazing programs and practices we want to put in our schools. So this is an amazing opportunity to teach students computer science instruction, and the teachers learn first, and then they teach the students
Okay.
the curriculum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Villegas.
Let's vote on that.
Okay, so is that for I-7, 10, 18,
That's-
and 35, or just 7?
Just 710. Just
Seven.
710.
Mhm, 7.
I mean, we did 7 earlier, we voted on that, now we're on 10.
Okay.
7 we're doing right now.
Yeah, this is I-7.
This is 7, yes,
7.
and 10 is coming up.
So the vote is,
The vote is 5-0 on that,
Okay.
and now we're up for 10. And who's the speaker on that one?
That was Moira Albertson, there she is.
I just want to make the board aware that we have a meaningful course of study meeting convening this very Friday. And I don't know if you still want to proceed on this issue, or if you would just like me to send you my many notes about my concerns about its current format. And I'm speaking to the course of study that you're about to vote on.
okay.
Thank you.
There's a big chunk in our
Yes.
board packet, the course of study. Is there, the superintendent, is there, if they're having a meeting about it this week, is there any reason it needs to be voted on today?
I was told Genevieve or Torrin might have information about that.
Ron. Or Ron.
Or Ron.
He's coming.
Thank you, Ron.
So this document, as you know, is a compilation of actions that you've taken throughout the year, so through ICC and then board approval. So it's just pulling all that information together. And this is one of the items that we are going to be providing to the state in response to a recent audit. So it is kind of time sensitive for approval today.
So, but she was mentioning about there's a meeting on Friday to discuss this, this packet?
I am not aware of the meeting that Moira was referring to, so again, that's outside our typical process, and if she has feedback on ways to improve the document, we'd love to hear that, but I'm not aware of the content or the purpose of her meeting.
In other words, you have a deadline, and also she has some concerns. So the question is, can you amend it if you submit it?
It's essentially kind of a living document. This is the 2018-19 version. We are now beginning to work on the 19-20 version of the course of study, and we are making some internal changes as well to our process to generate it, so it's actually a good time to entertain changes that may be suggested.
So if feedback comes at the Friday meeting, it doesn't mean it can't
Okay.
be incorporated. We just have to move this tonight for that
Okay.
timeline requirement, but there's a meeting on Friday where input can be taken in this living document and then incorporated.
Okay.
But I also heard that this is a compilation, a sort of a codification of decisions that have already been made.
Correct.
So these have already been discussed in an open session and presented and approved, and we're just sort of pulled all those together, and this is that final document.
Correct.
Okay, if it hasn't been moved, I will move this item.
Kevin, second. Okay, if there's no other discussion, let's vote on it.
10.
This is strictly I-10. And that's 5-0, thank you. And we have 18 and 35, you said, for?
Yes, we had one speaker citizen on those items.
On 18 and 35.
Down here.
Going once, going twice,
No
gone.
speakers.
If not, may I have a motion on it?
Move items 18 and 35.
Second.
Okay, that would be John and Kevin, yes. No discussion, let's vote on it, please. Mike? What was it?
Mike, did you vote?
Oh, thought we were waiting for a speaker. Got it.
Okay.
Okay, that passes 5-0. Okay, that concludes all of the ayes, the superintendent's consent agenda. Now it's time for public testimony.
On
Do we have-
non-agenda?
On non-agenda, do we have any speakers?
Been on?
Looks like 8 speakers on non-agenda items.
Okay, let's call them.
Citizen, Sandra Punta, Susan Stark, Kelly Middleton, Christopher Poblete, Kristen Heiler, or Sherry Swepston.
All please come forward. Citizen not here, Sandra Punta. Here or not here, okay. Maura?
She withdrew.
Withdrew, okay. Susan Stark?
Hi, thank you again for letting me talk. I just want you to know that, John Evans, I spent the last 2 weeks searching for schools in my area for my kids, and I found out from Christine that the after-school program has a wait list that's too high, that my chances were no-go, that my kids would be able to have an after-school program. We were not given our first choice. I visited my second choice, and I visited the special ed program. Very nice, lots of one-on-ones, very little academic learning going on at all. That would not be acceptable for my son's IEP. Neighborhood school actually discouraged me through email communication from applying, saying they only deal with mild needs. My son has more than mild needs. This is all discouraging for me looking at the neighborhood community. What is actually meeting those needs is Thrive. It's a gem of a school. The teachers are everything that I just heard, the 2020 vision advertising. They work in collaboration. The administrators work with the teachers. The kids all know them as with the teachers. They do a planetarium that they made out of pizza boxes. They did constellations where people made their own stories of how the constellations got in the sky for an exhibition. The learning that goes on here from a teacher's perspective is unlike any I've seen, and I cannot find a San Diego unified school that will provide for all 3 of my kids who have very different needs the kind of education and care and communication and socio-emotional learning that Thrive has been able to do. I cannot even find a close comparison, and I have tried really hard to look in my neighborhood schools. But the after-school program, that's a no-go. We're working parents, and when I was told at my neighborhood school, we're only there to provide you a free education, that's not acceptable. We can't pick our kids up at 2 o'clock and drop them off at 7:30. I'm a teacher. I can't get off at 2 o'clock and pick up my kids to help them. Thrive provided all of these things for us. It's a model, and I encourage you to make a formal visit to see this school in motion, and you will not be discouraged. And if anything else, you'll get something from it. K through 2nd grade, not represented at all in the evaluation. It's amazing. Please
Thank
visit.
you. Next speaker. Kelly Middleton.
Hi, I'm Kelly Middleton. I'm the father of a proud father of a Thrive student and a 5th grade student body representative at Thrive. We took our son out of a very high-performing school in the San Diego school area that was predominantly white. My son's 2 best friends are Hispanic and African American. We like this school because it is diverse. It is diverse in thought. It is diverse in education. A history lesson. The Spanish Inquisition accused Galileo of heresy for saying that that the earth rotated around the sun and not vice versa. He was jailed for those thoughts. Dr. Nicola Sisi has come up with an innovative idea to change the way we educate our children. And you've crucified her and shut down her school for having innovative ideas. You, Mr. Evans, you commented to Voice of San Diego on the shutting down of a local school for underperforming, a traditional school. If a neighborhood school is not performing, we definitely need to take a serious look at what needs to change for it to improve. You said closing the school does not accomplish that. It does not at Thrive either. Thrive grew too fast. That was your accusation. Yes, it did grow too fast. That should be a signal of the demand from the community to get better education for our children. There's an opportunity here to change the way we educate our children, and you're denying the community of that opportunity. You're refusing to be open-minded. You're refusing to be innovative. Thrive is changing the way we educate children. It is amazing. It is nationally recognized. It has been state recognized. It has been recognized by the Superintendent of Education for the nation. It's a great school, doing great things, and you're putting 1,000 families in crisis. It doesn't have to be that way. You can renew the charter for Thrive for 1 year. Give them probation. Give them a chance to turn around testing. They test every student. They don't tell their special education students to stay home for testing. My friends in the local public traditional school system, they laugh when we tell them that our kids stayed for testing, because they tell their kids to stay home for testing. You're holding them to an unfair advantage.
Thank you. Christopher Poblete and Kristen Heiler and Sherry Swepston.
Hi, board trustees, listen up. I'm here to remind you who you work for. You work for the kids of San Diego. You work for the families of San Diego. You do not work for the labor union. You do not work for your endorsees for re-election. Specifically you, Richard. Yes, your conflict of interest with the labor union, someone's gonna catch on.
Excuse me.
You work for the kids of San Diego. You work for our families. The truth is, you never gave Thrive a chance. The truth is, you voted against Thrive from the beginning. The truth is, you don't care about the kids and families of Thrive. The truth is, you went out of your way to make sure Thrive fails and other charters. Shame. Shame on you. How do you feel? We have a solution that works for 1,000 kids. The best judge of a kid's success is their parents. I know my kid, in 8 months, grew significantly in reading and math. I know that, and that's because of Thrive. I had her at a private school. I'm paying to be here tonight to speak to you. You're getting paid. The truth is, everyone watching on TV, that this system doesn't work. This is democracy. We have to speak up to our elected officials. You cannot be afraid to speak up to them. We cannot be afraid because of Richard's vindictiveness. I am not going to stand down, and I will make sure you do not run unopposed in the next election. Because we should be working on an education system that works for all our kids, not just some, all, and we have a solution. Yet you vote to fail it down.
Thank you. Kristen Heiler and Sherry Swepston.
Hi, my name is Kristen Heiler. Good evening, board. I'm a mother of 3 kids, and I'm here just to express concern about the 3 R's sex ed curriculum. So I appreciate your time this evening. It's been a long meeting, and I appreciate you sticking out through the end to hear all of our public comments. So just recently, I saw some statistics from the California Department of Public Health, and the statistics said that the rates of STDs in high schoolers are raising, and they're not going down, and this is for California high schoolers. And only half of the sexually active high schoolers use a condom or have used one at the last time that they have had sex. And only 1 out of 3 use a condom every time that they have sex. And so I'm concerned because in my looking at the 3 R's curriculum, I have not seen much teaching of the of sexual abstinence. And so I feel that teaching sexual abstinence might actually encourage kids, or at least let them know that they don't need to have sex with their partner, and they can wait, and the consequences of waiting would be not contracting sexual transmitted diseases. So please, if you would consider taking out the 3 R's curriculum and replacing it with one that at least values sexual abstinence for the sake of the kids in San Diego, for their future, because those rates are raising and not going down. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sherry Swepston.
You got it. Hi, I'm Sherry Swepston. I am the parent of 2 children with special needs. I have been working with San Diego Unified to meet my children's needs for the last 11 years. My daughter is considered mod severe, and my son has dyslexia and dysgraphia. So I have seen many different schools and many different settings. Unfortunately, my daughter 5 years ago was placed in a non-public school because of failing by San Diego Unified. So I have seen it all, and I wanted to let you know that if Thrive had been in existence when we were looking for a fit for my daughter, I can guarantee you she would not be in a non-public school right now. It's not worth changing her. My son has been at Thrive Public Schools for 3 years. He came in under grade level. After 3 years, he is now at or above grade level in all areas. It does work. Please take into account what I'm trying to tell you is please look at special ed in San Diego Unified. It's not working. My daughter has made leaps and bounds since she's been in a non-public school. My son has made leaps and bounds since he's been at Thrive Public Schools. And another thing, you spoke earlier about special education, and I wanted to bring to account something that you may or may not be aware of. The transportation system in special ed is horrible. I've been driving my daughter for 30 minutes one way, twice a day for 5 years because your best transportation that's in my settlement is almost 2 hours one way. This is a child that has neurological disorders, cannot regulate her body temperature, sometimes has potty accidents even at 14, and the best you can do is almost 2 hours each way. That's not good enough. So please look at special ed, and Thrive is meeting the needs of all these children. All with mod severe, mild, please, you can fix this. Do the right thing.
Thank you, and that ends our public testimony.
2 more people.
Did we call their names?
We both signed out, but we didn't hear our names.
I signed out online. Yes, I did.
For non-agenda. What is your name? See it, but you're here, so go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. You've been some glitch.
Mine is quick. I'm going to hold you guys accountable, and I want my son to know that I fought for his school. You guys have to improve instruction. My son's never going to come back to San Diego Unified School District to be bullied by staff and students. Not happening in my lifetime. Your instructions need to improve as well. You guys are not welcoming. My son, he's autistic, and it was hard for him to get up here and talk to you guys because you guys are not welcoming, some of you. And you make it hard for him to open up and feel like he belongs. A teacher ignites the fire that fuels a student's thirst for knowledge, curiosity, and wisdom. San Diego Unified School District does not do that for my son, and I have 3 grown kids. So you guys have the ability to reverse and take on Thrive and put them under provision, but you choose not to. And I want my son to know that you guys made this decision for him. You didn't allow me as his mother to make the decision of what school I wanted him to go to. And not all of you, but some of you, and you know who you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Was he on the list?
What's your name?
Angel Vasquez.
Did you sign up again for non-agenda? I don't see you on there.
I signed on for agenda and non-agenda.
Oh, you're right, I see you. Go ahead, yeah. I do see him on there again.
No personal attacks, I just have a quick reminder. Our founders recognized that public schools are a vital institution of the American Democratic Republic, but education, they also knew, involved more than reading, writing, and arithmetic. Education in our society requires developing citizens who can adapt to changing times, make decisions about social issues, and effectively judge the performance of its public officials. In fulfilling their responsibilities, public schools must not only provide knowledge of many subject areas and essential skills, but must also educate students on core American values such as fairness, equality, justice, respect for others, and the right to dissent. However, modern-day public schools don't teach this. Other schools fall vastly short of the standards and practices currently being taught at Thrive and fail at producing the level of competent, compassionate, and creative individuals that Thrive produces. Thrive doesn't just teach children, it teaches children to want to learn. If we don't take the time to teach children these principles, such as how to want to personally grow through positive reinforcement and self-motivation, we might as well go back to the basics and wait until the educational system cripples our society and destroys our country. Thank you.
Thank you. This completes the non-agenda public testimony for this portion of this meeting. Thank you all for your comments and for taking time to address the board and superintendent today. We appreciate your input, and please know that your perspective help us better serve our students, parents, and the community. The next regular meeting will be held on May 14th, 2019. The Teacher of the Year celebration will be held on May 7th at SCPA. You're adjourned.